Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, October 6th, 2022 South Haven Planning Commission. I'll call the meeting to order. Megan, if you'd please call the roll.
Clark Gruber,
Here.
Lijah Haney, Larry Heinig, Amy Nichols, Michael Neese,
Here.
George Sleeper,
Here.
Janice Varney, Daryl Williams, Tim Stegman.
Here. Next up, item 3, approval of the agenda.
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda with the changes as follows, moving item 8 to be item 5A and moving item 9 to be item 5B.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? I'll just add the reason for the move is because items 6 and 7 on unfinished business are more of a planning commission talking workshop, and 8 and 9 we have some people here from the public, so we'd like to expedite if possible. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item 4, approval of meeting minutes from September 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 1st, 2022 regular meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the meeting minutes from September 1st. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I'm going to review our correspondence comment log. This is going to take a little while because we had quite a bit since the last meeting. General topic, support of proposed height text amendments, Mike Campbell. Support of SLU application for 337 Hubbard. We have 7 of those. Margaret McClendon, Wendy Anuki, Leslie Carpenter, Teresa Hosier, Jennifer Brown, Robin Riva, and Claire Bodke. Next, we had concerns related to the SLU application. And we have 11. Andrew and Christine Boehner, Tina Jesse, Charles Trauber, Craig and Pam Beck, Jim and Deanna Wright, Sarah Richmond, Catherine and Billy Lancaster, Helene Wolin, Barbara Lute, Doree Neely, Mary Bookert. We have a few more support of SLU. 1, 2, 3. Julie Combs, Kimberly Cross, Kevin Schooley. Opposition to Social District, Brian Spalding. Support and suggestions for the Social District, Heidi and Joel Jaskowski. Support of proposed Social District, Mac Waldorf. Support of proposed Social District, Rich Edwards. And news article regarding a non-compliant home required to be torn down, Dan Agnello. So those are all the correspondence we received. Next up, unfinished business. Item 5, Michigan Maritime Museum parking plan.
All right. Last month, the Planning Commission reviewed the first version of the parking plans submitted by the Michigan Maritime Museum. And as you'll recall, you all asked for some modifications, and our Assistant City Manager Griffin Graham has been working with the museum staff and museum board members on the revisions. So I'm going to turn it over to Griffin to provide the overview.
Okay, Griffin.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate the introduction, Kelly. Yes, we have an updated parking plan brought before you this evening following the last Planning Commission meeting where there was a pretty thorough conversation and a number of items of feedback provided to the Maritime Museum. City staff is working with their team to prepare some modifications to their event parking plan. So if you want to take a look at the document you all have in your packet starting on page 14, I can walk you through a little bit about what this plan looks like. Starting is just some background, gives a little bit of an introduction on why we're even really having this conversation, taking a look back at the major campus improvement project plans that were brought before the Planning Commission in 2019, and the specific conditions that were imposed on the approval of that project that relate to parking or the parking concerns raised at that time. The plan then goes on to address those conditions by highlighting the private parking options that are going to be made available by the museum, both on-site and when they have over a certain number of people off-site parking, both at the Senior Services of Van Buren facility here, Van Buren County facility, and Country House Furniture facility, both on M140. It goes in to talk a little bit about the shuttle plan and when shuttle service will be required, what that'll look like. Moves in to clarify the public parking piece that I think was a point of some confusion or some contention at the last meeting, as well as contact information should there be any questions or concerns regarding the parking of a specific private event. I also want to highlight some of the attachments included just to hopefully make this easier for everyone to understand, both on the Planning Commission and then eventual event guests. We've got maps including the Maritime Museum showing their parking, as well as the off-site parking being provided at Senior Services and Country House Furniture. A map showing the distance between there, and then the agreements between the museum and those off-site facilities making available those parking spaces should they be needed. But with that being said, I'm happy to do what I can to answer any questions. I do believe we have a few representatives from the museum, should there be questions for them. But otherwise, at this point in time, city staff is comfortable that this plan meets the intent of the conditions that were imposed, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Griffin. Does anybody on the commission have any questions for staff?
I could use a little explanation of the ordinance that moved us to move the limit from 50 to 100. We said originally that any event over 50
Correct.
would trigger it. Now we're saying 100.
Yep, so there's not an ordinance that defined that. That was a condition that was put in place by the Planning Commission, so it would be the changing of a condition, if you will. And my understanding is that even though it is, I'd say, like, I'm trying to think the best way to say it, it's not necessarily common to see this. I think what we've seen with the feedback from the Planning Commission at the last meeting and then the discussions we've had is that we're comfortable with them moving from the 50 to 100. But it's based on the condition, not a section of the ordinance.
I'm looking for looking back through the comments from staff here. Hold on one second. Pardon me, I can't find my reference here, but I thought that was the reasoning given by the staff to increase it, was existing ordinances. No.
No, I think it was, the original condition was imposed, there's 50 spaces on the lot. The original condition was just assuming basically one person per car.
Okay.
At the last meeting, the Maritime Museum urged us to consider that there's likely to be at least 2 people per car. And I think this is kind of a negotiated compromise. It would be essentially modifying the original condition to accommodate this new plan, with the understanding that that probably is closer to how people would travel to these events.
Thanks, Nick.
Any other questions, staff? How about for the applicant? Any question?
No, I think it's a good plan, and a good alternative from what we had before, and it's pretty concise.
Okay. Well, anybody from the audience wish to speak on this item? Okay.
And we do have the option to review this after years. I read that, correct?
Yes.
As a primary,
You have the option, should the plan change, it has to get brought back before the Planning Commission.
yeah.
And it also they have to provide proof of the off-site parking agreement every year, correct?
I thought that's what I read.
That's what we stipulated last time.
Yeah. The reason I ask it, Griff, is, I mean, this is all based on conjecture right now. We're making some
Absolutely.
estimates. And my primary concern is making sure that neighborhoods still have sufficient parking for the people that live in the neighborhoods.
You all are welcome to add conditions as you all see fit to that.
Well,
So that could be an appropriate condition.
What I'm saying, we may not know that until we have gone through a period to see how this works. But I just want to make sure we have the chance to revisit it if the neighbors do and come back to us and say, hey, got no place to park.
Well, we've got 2 parking spaces, I mean, 50 parking spaces and 100 people. And above that, they have to provide shuttle service.
Right.
And that would be almost equal to any other, business that was doing that in that area,
That's not my
a 2-to-1. I mean, if it was a new Moose Club, they would get 3-to-1, because that is, what we have. But we went with the 2-to-1, so I think it's pretty concise now. Before it was a little convoluted here and there. This is an agreement, and I think it meets what we were looking for.
That's not my argument, Clark. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm simply saying, making sure there is something built in that we can review it, because we're doing that on our best estimate. I understand what you're saying, but if it turns out that people are choosing to park in the neighborhoods rather than parking at senior services and whatever, then we're going to have to take a look at the plan again.
But people can do that.
I know. They
But
can't.
what we're
some of that
saying is, at a certain point, we're requiring them to continue to have the 2-to-1 with off-street parking, which any other business would have to have that as well.
And some of it, Mike, I'm hearing might be the enforcement issue side of it. So you're absolutely right. We're going to put this plan in place, and then they have to do it. And if they're not, then there's the enforcement side we have to go to.
Yeah, don't read my comments as opposition to the
Oh,
plan.
I'm not at all.
Because I'm not opposed to the plan. I'm simply saying, my primary objective, we have a problem with parking in this city. We all know that. And I've had a couple citizens call me and say, why don't we issue residents parking permits so they can park on streets overnight? Well, we're not quite to that, but let's just make sure that we are keeping in mind the residents' right to be able to have parking spaces in front of their homes.
I think you were also alluding to, without saying it, was the fact that in this calculation, we were looking at the occupancy of the building, and we haven't really talked about exterior activities that may be on top of the internal building occupancy. So we might need to look at that again in the future too, but that doesn't really get covered in this. So,
I have a question. If we approve it the way it is, and we see that indeed there may be a problem in the future, could we come back and revisit it even though it's not part of the stipulation right now?
That's my question.
The way it's written, not unless it changes. If the parking arrangement changes, then it has to come back to Planning Commission. If they lose access to one of these lots or want to do a different lot or something to that effect, that would come back to the Planning Commission, but there's no provision for periodic review as currently written.
And I'll let the city attorney correct me if I'm wrong, but if you all would like to add a condition stating that in 1 year or in 2 years that this get brought back to you all for a review, my understanding is that could be an appropriate condition. So that if that is the concern, that is an option you all have. My understanding is what we can't do is say it comes back to us if we find there's a problem at some point in the future. We have to set a specific meter.
okay, very good.
What I could do is put forth a a motion, and if you want to make an amendment to it and add something, you may. So I guess I would recommend, recommend approval of the Michigan Maritime Museum event parking plan to include the two stipulations recommended by staff.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion?
Should it be amended now, or do we take a vote? Yeah. And I'd like to offer an amendment that says the plan will be reviewed for continuance after 1 year.
Is there support?
I support that. I noticed that the contract with off-street parking is renewed annually, so that would give everybody an opportunity to see if this is working the way we hope it will.
So are we looking at a one-year review, or are we going to do this annually every year?
My thought, Clark, is we should have our answers after a year.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question is, are you putting this in for a one-year review, or are you putting it in as an annual review?
And I think I just answered. It's not an annual review as I'm offering.
It's a one-year review
It's a 1 year review.
on the first year. Okay.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to amend, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion to amend carries. Back to the original motion as amended. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Parking plan is approved. Okay, item 5A, which was formerly other business, item 8, 1241 Kalamazoo Street.
Yes, thank you. This is a site plan application from W.R. Grace to construct a 591 square foot, three-story expansion of their existing Building 5, as well as to construct a new 3,313 square foot warehouse. This is all within the existing industrial complex on Kalamazoo Street. Their project also includes a relocation of an access road to create some space for the proposed expansion and the warehouse. And I've been in communication with staff from Hargrove, who is the architecture engineering firm working on the project. And they are aware that we have asked for a lighting plan. There was some lighting information missing from the original site plans, and they've indicated to me there will be no new pole lighting, but lighting would be attached to the building down-facing as required by the ordinance. The final fixtures would depend on their final design plans, which are forthcoming. They have also indicated that the east gate, which is mentioned in the staff report, would remain on site to allow access behind the warehouse. So those are my notes, and there are several project representatives here tonight. They're going to give a brief presentation on the project and be available to answer any questions that you might have.
Is it an AV presentation?
It's not.
Okay, could you put up the,
Yes.
one of the plans on the over?
They did bring some hard copy boards with them that
Okay.
they've got available as
Well, maybe that'll help audience.
I can
so
do both.
see.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Would they like to come up now?
And Tim, if you can let me know if there's one particular
No,
page you'd
just-
like over any other, I can
No.
make that happen.
I don't, maybe the satellite one. What is page is that, 94? Is that right?
This page?
Yeah, maybe that one. I think that's more recognizable than a black and white drawing. Okay. Good evening.
Hi, I'm John Rayesky. I'm the project manager for this project for Grace. We have the architect and the soil civil people here, and then a representative for production, if you have any of those questions.
Let me stop you for just a second. Do we have an easel? Okay, please do. Thank you.
Either that, Griffin could just hold it.
All right, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, not a problem. Actually, up a couple, you had the red squares, that'll give a pretty good location where the new buildings that we're proposing, because I'm pretty sure most people don't know what Building 5 is.
Okay.
It's the end building, end section there on that, so can you, I think it was like a couple pictures up. So if you scroll down,
This way
I think it was the other.
or the other way?
Other way.
Well, that one shows it. Okay, so this is the end of the building there. That's where we're adding the square footage, the 591. It's going to be attached to the existing building. It'll be 3 stories. It'll match the current design and stuff on that. So it's basically going to be 600 square feet additional to do that. The other building is going to be a new warehouse, a work-in-process warehouse for us, and that's about 3,300 square foot. And it'll be still within the perimeter. It will also match the same design criteria as the rest of the building. In reference to her lighting plan, our plan is to follow the same process that the rest of the building has now with the lights attached to the building. And we would pretty much just illuminate the area within the fence for security purposes with what we manufacture.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
I'm curious about the access road. When I went out there, I did see, of course, the main gate and going into Grace, and then also the parking lot for the employees. So if you could point out the access road for me, the other one, I wasn't sure where to
Okay,
find
so
it.
see the roadway there that goes around the building? That's going to be the new
Oh, that's it.
access road that'll go around. It'll attach to the existing at the other end.
Okay.
So right now, it kind of goes and turns and goes to the gate that's on the lower right-hand side of the drawing there where it says gate. So it kind of does a U shape there. See at the bottom where it says gate? So we're going to modify that when we put that building in and have go out the new gate onto the road.
I was really pleased to see this enhancement to Grace, and I applaud the company and you for doing this.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. It's a big project for Grace, and it's going to be really nice for us.
So you're not closing the eastern access, or you are?
That gate will remain.
Okay.
But the road that goes around the building won't be there. So we see back where it says tank, and there's some other access there. So we're going to keep the gate, but it's only going to be used for access to that portion. of the
Okay.
island.
Any other questions?
Lighting.
Yeah.
Is that, I know, how is that lighting? It did mention which direction, or, people are pretty keen on dark sky lighting. How is that going to be handled on this new building?
Well, we would attach it to the building, would have it all down.
Okay.
lit, Similar to what we have today.
Okay. And that was my
That was it?
That was my big question for Wyckoff, Catalytic, Albemarle, Grace.
Yep.
Think I got them all.
WR Grace right now.
Was there anything in particular on those,
No, that was just to explain to you what we had. We didn't know we had to overhead.
We're
so we
high-tech.
just anticipated a few questions coming from y'all, so.
Okay. All right, well, you can stand by if you would, and I can take public comment.
Okay.
In case we have any further questions.
Sounds good.
Okay. And we'll just move those off to the side, maybe. Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on this item? Okay, well, back to the commission.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the expansion plans for W.R. Grace Company with the 7 exceptions or 7 stipulations in the staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I believe one of the conditions, it mentions closing the eastern access approach. Was that condition number 3? Could you take a closer look
Condition number
at that?
3.
What page are you?
Page
That
80.
was
80.
page 80.
Okay. Let me take another look at that.
Sounds like they're not necessarily closing it, they're just not connecting it to the new road. But they'll still keep it for ingress and egress if needed to the back property. So we could probably just even strike that, strike number 3. Seeing we've got a motion and a second. Someone would need to maybe make
You
an
would have to
amendment.
I'll go ahead and amend my original motion to remove stipulation 3 out of the 7.
I'll second it again to stay consistent.
Okay. It's been moved and supported to amend the motion by striking item 3 of the recommendations. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to amend, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Now we're back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, good luck with your project, gentlemen. Next one is 5B, formerly number 9, 337 Hubbard Street. It's an SLU and a public hearing.
Yes. Sandra Sutton, who also lives at 337 Hubbard, has applied for a special land use to operate a group daycare facility with up to 12 children in attendance. The proposal is actually to operate a preschool for children aged 3 to 5. She's proposing a Monday through Friday schedule from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. Her operation would align closely with the South Haven Public Schools school calendar and would also include some summer camp sessions and some field trips, perhaps an occasional evening open house or program related to the school. Sandra has submitted all the required application materials, including a site plan of the existing home and yard that shows her fencing and her landscaping plans and her available parking. And as you noted earlier, Mr. Chair, we've received quite a bit of public comment regarding this application on both sides, both support and concern. And Sandra has expressed a desire to run a successful program, but she's also aware of the potential impact to the neighborhood. So she's willing to consider conditions that this group might impose should you be favorable toward the application. Sandra's here tonight to offer a brief presentation, and you mentioned the public hearing as well.
Okay. Well, Ms. Sutton, if you'd like to come forward. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you. Hello, Commission members, friends, and neighbors. I am Sandra Sutton, and I'm here today seeking approval from the committee to open a preschool program for 12 or less students from my home in the Hartman Park neighborhood. Young children are my typical audience, so this is very much outside my comfort zone. In spite of my nervousness, I'm grateful for this opportunity to convey the importance of allowing this special land use. I appreciate everyone's investment in this issue, and thank you all for being here tonight. Others contributed with phone calls and emails, so I would like to acknowledge them as well. Because I'm not acquainted with most of you personally, I'd first like to share a little bit about myself. I've been an active member in this community for well over a decade and take pride in our great city with all that it has to offer residents and tourists. During that time, I have served South Haven students and their families within the public school system, the past 6 years as a preschool teacher at Maple Grove. I was also the education coordinator at the Liberty Hyde Bailey Museum and chairman of their education committee. My teenage children have attended South Haven Public Schools since kindergarten, and our family participates in arts, social, recreational, sporting, and volunteer opportunities here. While there are so many positives to living and raising children in our community, it is obvious that a need exists for early education opportunities. The South Haven branch of KidZone has an average of 6 to 10 families of preschool children waiting for over 6 months for available openings at their center alone. In my time as a lead teacher for the Great Start Readiness Program, I worked with numerous families that were unable to meet income guidelines and then struggled to find an alternative to religious and wait-listed options for their children. As my reputation as a knowledgeable and dedicated early childhood educator became more widely known, I was approached directly by parents and industry professionals to consider opening a program of my own as an additional offering for South Haven families. And after much thought and consultation, I've decided to do just that. Working within the guidelines set forth in the zoning ordinance, I put together a special use permit application for South Haven Play School. The almost 30-page packet outlining operations, neighborhood, and property details addresses location, site, buffer, and landscape specifications to meet zoning standards for a group daycare. The legal language of the ordinance was a lot to grasp, and I had countless questions for Kelly, but she was so patient and really helped me understand all that was being required. For the purpose of this meeting, I'll focus on a few topics of importance. There are some distinctions to note regarding the terminology, as the verbiage is not interchangeable. South Haven Play School, as designed, is a preschool program for up to 12 students offering full and half-day sessions for children ages 3 to 5 that will operate in alignment with the South Haven calendar, as well as intermittent summer camps that may include some students up to age 8. For City of South Haven zoning purposes, this entity falls under the classification as a daycare or day nursery, which requires approval in District R1B, where the subject property is located. Separately, the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, LARA, qualifies this type of program as a group child care home, and an additional series of stipulations are mandated to ensure compliance with all state standards. South Haven Play School will operate in accordance with all LARA guidelines. I have initiated the application process, but zoning must be determined to proceed. After submission and review of required materials, a consultant will assess the home for compliance. Once all obligations are met, a 6-month provisional license will be issued until an on-site inspection is completed. If the facility remains compliant, then a 2-year license will be issued. In the interest of providing a nurturing and comfortable learning environment, the preschool will be located from within the main floor of my residence on Hubbard Street. Upgrades, repairs, and minor modifications made to accommodate this use are all designed to enhance rather than detract from the homey character and appearance. While there has been a degree of short-term inconvenience to my immediate neighbors as a result of some construction and heavy equipment, rebuilding a garage, installing a privacy fencing, and removing aging trees are all within the scope of general home maintenance. Neither outdoor or indoor changes are specific to use for children and will continue to look and function as a family home. As zoning specifications require, any and all preschool-related equipment will be housed in the backyard or garage. Considerations for adjacent residential properties have been addressed in the layout and barrier of outdoor play spaces, as well as daily procedures and scheduled activities. My backyard, measuring over 2,000 square feet, has a 6-foot wooden fence in addition to the existing chain link panel along the field, and the landscape will include a variety of ornamental, native, and fruiting plants, trees, and bushes to provide additional buffering. A multi-surface area for large motor play is located at the rear of the yard near Ratcliffe Field to minimize neighbor disturbance. Because an attached deck space will be used seasonally as an outdoor classroom, a boxwood hedgerow and sound dampening curtains are planned for installation. The neighborhood in consideration is welcoming and full of activity. Right off Phoenix Street, it is a mix of residential homes, public school-owned properties, and a public city park. Located close enough to the beach and downtown, it provides overflow parking for celebrations and hosts tourists and neighborhood inns and seasonal rentals. Ratcliffe Field, Hartman Park, and the Historical Association of South Haven host a series of events for members of our community and visitors from surrounding areas. The athletic field has a capacity of over 2,500, while Hash Next Store can accommodate 100 individuals for indoor gatherings. Traffic, parked vehicles, and visitors to the immediate neighborhood are regular occurrences. In fact, tomorrow evening, our street will be lined with students, staff, and their families for the annual homecoming parade, ending at the field just in time for the Friday night lights. One thing I look forward to in particular is the Halloween tradition of welcoming hundreds of children into our neighborhood for trick-or-treating. I have passed out candy since 2015, and somehow I never seem to buy enough, and maybe this year I'll get it right. We'll see. Program scheduling, practices, and procedures will take into account available parking and traffic flow. Families will rarely arrive or leave at exactly the same time due to both full and half-day options and the scheduled half-hour buffer for pickup and drop-off. In the unlikely situation there is enough parking available without interference to neighborhood properties. Beginning procedures will mandate that families park and walk their children into the home. With additional students and staff, another solution for arrival and dismissal is a moving car line. As the graphic indicates, traffic can flow freely around the line, and school families have multiple options for exiting the neighborhood. There are also spots along Huron Street for families that prefer to park. Staff will be required to park off the street in the side drive, which also allows for up to 5 vehicles. Neighborhood harmony is of utmost importance, and I would like to address some recent concerns that were submitted to the Commission. As I was made aware, special land use may be available to any subsequent property owner once a permit has been approved. Additionally, the zoning designation as a daycare affords allowances that are unrelated to practices necessary for the operation of South Haven Place School. With guidance from the zoning administration, I am proposing the inclusion of conditions and terms that, with approval, would restrict hours of operation, limit the age of students, and require the termination of the permit prior to me ever selling the home. There also appears to be some easiness regarding traffic and parking. My maximum student capacity will be just a fraction of what the existing infrastructure can already accommodate, and I have developed clear and concise procedures for families to follow. That being said, I am definitely open to making any revisions if any sort of difficulty ever seems to arise. It was also mentioned that families attending the preschool from outside the local community might compromise the atmosphere and cohesion of our neighborhood. Maybe that can be explained further during the public comments, because I'm not aware how visitors, especially those affiliated with a preschool, would cause a concern. Our immediate area hosts parades, events, sporting games, and ceremonies that regularly attract opposing teams outside of our community and tourists from around the globe. Lastly, I would like to counter the written request for denial and instead suggest using the applicable conditions and terms to mitigate any concerns. Denial of this permit means it cannot come before the Commission for another 2 years, and that is too long to wait to provide this valuable service for South Haven children and families. Thank you for your time, attention, and consideration.
Okay, thank you. One quick question.
Yes.
You had stated days and hours of operation you were
Yes.
intending to be Monday through Friday, 8 to 4?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission for the
Was-
applicant?
I'm assuming that excludes night. I'm just trying to make sure that we all understand it is just a day operation.
Yes, it is absolutely a day operation. As Kelly mentioned, there are some things that I was interested in. Really building a school community is something that's important to me, and I would really like to offer our family things like monthly crockpot nights or family game night or something like that that may operate, with outside of those regular business hours, but that wouldn't be a regular occurrence.
And I just want to make sure when you say 8 to 4, does that include pickup and drop-off, or should it be 7:30 to 4:30?
No, so the operating hours will be from 8:30 to 3:30. So
Okay.
I'm providing that buffer from 8 to 8:30 and then from 3:30 to 4
Thank you.
for parents. Sure.
All right, any other questions from the commission?
How many staff members do you anticipate?
So it depends on enrollment, but initially I would like for it to be myself and one part-time employee. So 1 to 6 is a fantastic ratio, but working in the classroom, I know how that extra set of helping hands for half of the day will really be to the benefit of the student and the center as a whole.
One other question.
Sure.
I noticed that this will be in the main floor
Yes.
of your home.
That's correct.
Does that include the kitchen on the main
Yes,
floor?
it does.
And so that,
That will be a shared
Shared,
space.
okay.
That will be the only shared space. And there will be no other additional family members in the home during the time of operation that will be in that space.
and one other question, is there a deck, a top deck?
There is a
an
top
upper
deck, yes.
And will children be on that top deck? Or will that be only for
There's going
family?
to be a deck modification. I'm going to have a gate installed at the bottom of the stairs, so that way they don't have access.
Okay. Nothing else? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
It's been moved and supported to open a public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Public hearing is open. Does anybody wish to address the commission on this item? If so, come up to the podium, state your name, address, and you will have 5 minutes. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Tim. Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I think the plan is very good. I was concerned about parking, but the only time I know there's a lot of parking on there is during football games. I think you can park on both sides of the street. But I did hand out pamphlets for the past elections and everything, and I saw very few cars in the morning or at night, whatever, and during those times, parked on Hubbard. So I don't think that's going to be a problem where they'd have to park on one side and walk across, or they're going to block traffic or whatever it is. So I think it's a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Laura Boss. I live at 02716 County Road 687. And I'm here to speak in support of Sandra Sutton. I first met Sandra when our daughters were kindergartners in Girl Scouts. I was a troop leader and could not have managed all those 5-year-olds without her help every week. In the nearly 10 years since then, I've been an active member of our school community, and I have watched Sandra blossom as she led educational programming at Liberty High Bailey, and then as she excelled in her role at preschool as a preschool teacher at Maple Grove. Our small town is in need of more opportunities for our youngest community members. There's not many preschool options, and some of them are waitlisted. Preschool is an essential building block for not only future educational success, but also social and emotional success for our children. I've heard about Sandra's plans at length and consider them to be very well thought out. Sandra provides not only an exceptional business plan, but she has the skills, credentials, and experience to carry that plan out in the best possible way. She's not only smart and talented, but she would, as you would want someone running a business, but she's thoughtful, kind, and patient, which are traits that you want in leading small children. If I still lived in that neighborhood, which I used to, I would have welcomed the business. And if I still had small preschool children, which I don't anymore because they're in high school, I would have enthusiastically enrolled them in her program. So I encourage you to see the value of her program and support her plans.
Anyone else? Okay. Does anybody wish to speak? Raise your hand if you plan on speaking on this item. Okay, thank you.
I'm Desiree Neely. I live at 333 Hubbard Street, right next to Sandra. She, so far, has been a good neighbor. The only problem I still have,
Please address me.
the only trouble I still have is, I know she's going to try to buffer the deck and everything. I work 5 in the morning, I'm home at 5 in the morning to 5 at night, and then I go to work at 5 at night to 5 in the morning. I sleep when everybody else is doing their normal activities. As we know, preschoolers, no matter how hard you try, are noisy. The only problem I have is her maybe having the little things going on the deck, because my sleeping is 15 feet away from where that deck is. And I know she wants to put up buffers and trees and all that. I'm just worried about the noise and trying to sleep. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That might be an issue. She said she gives a lot of candy out. A lot of sugar in that neighborhood. Okay.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Annie Brown, 114 Michigan Avenue. I'm a former preschool teacher and a former recruiter for Tri-County Head Start. I've known Sandra for years. She's an excellent and experienced preschool teacher who is certified by the state of Michigan. And as a former preschool teacher, I support her plans. For more than 15 years, South Haven has had a shortage of preschool options for families who make too much money for Head Start or the Great Start Preschool Readiness Program. So I know everybody in South Haven, especially the elected officials, are concerned about the missing middle. This helps provide preschool for that missing middle. When I was a recruiter for Head Start, I would meet face-to-face with parents and tell them that they, after reviewing their paycheck stubs, they made too much money for preschool, for Head Start. About a year ago, I wrote a letter to the editor of the Herald Palladium and talked about the crisis our state is having with the lack of affordable child care and preschool options. This program helps just a little. People who want to work in South Haven and move here are looking for early childhood care. So her neighborhood is a perfect location. And she's an excellent teacher. She is right there by Hartman School. So for probably 90 years, they had students and parents and families coming and going. So this is a wonderful location for this. And as you heard, and you probably know, it's also supported by Kevin Schooley, our superintendent of schools. So thank you, and I hope you support this.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Andrew Boehner, 768 Huron Street. We are B489, if you look at the property photo. So we're basically kitty corner to where Sandra is located. We've submitted a letter that I hope will be part of the record. I don't think I need to read this letter into the record. Okay. In that letter, I had a few points, 3 points that we spelled out, and I'd like to expand on a couple of those, and then I had a question to ask at the end. The first point was about the special land use for the property and the fact that that special land use does not terminate with the owner of the property. It terminates with when the property, it doesn't terminate with the ownership. It goes on for the life of the property. As long as that business is maintained there without a 1 year, I guess, a non-operation, it will go on in perpetuity with that property. The special land use allows for children up to the age of 18, I assume, since it just says minor. So in fact, this could be for daycare, group home for teenagers. So even though today we're talking about 3 to 5 year olds, the approval of the special land use allows for ages up to 18. In that respect, I would find this more palatable, and I think the neighbors would find it more palatable if it terminated with transfer of the ownership of the property. So if the property's sold, Sandra's no longer operating the daycare, the special land use goes away. I understand you may not be able to do that, but it's possibly something that can fall under a voluntary deed restriction by Sandra, so it would take away that concern of the area neighbors. The second point had to do with the existence of Hartman School. Hartman School stopped operation in 2005. That's 17 years ago. That's basically a generation ago. So many of the neighbors don't have experience with the operation of Hartman School. And in fact, I don't remember what it was like when Hartman School was in operation. It's 17 years ago. And things have certainly changed since then. I guess lastly, Sandra did mention having some additional restrictions possibly on the special land use, and I would be certainly encouraged by that, particularly if it would include termination of the special land use with transfer ownership of the property, if however that could be worked out. And I think that would ease some of the concerns of the neighborhood. And I guess lastly, we did bring up the fact that, 6 students could attend this daycare without any kind of special land use permit as the current ordinance allows. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I support this, and I have heard that, people were concerned about the transferability and that it's assumed that it's automatic, but actually if you read the ordinance, it says it may transfer, which does not mean shall, although, of course, we've seen over the last year that shall means may in many situations, unfortunately. The request specifically is for 12 children, and what really pulls at my heart, and I think that's kind of the message that reverberates tonight, is that there's trust until it's lost, or something like that. It was recently used at the ZBA meeting, and in no way is this against the applicant. I mean, I reviewed her material. It is phenomenal compared to what I'm seeing from planned unit development developers. In fact, maybe she should get a second job doing their plans. They're a lot better than what I've seen from them. But it's really directed for any purchaser and what that next purchaser might try to do to extend what is being allowed, especially with the creative interpretations of staff. More importantly, against horribly deficient decisions by staff, such as 77 Clinton. We don't need that in any neighborhood. One is enough. One is too much. Therefore, I would encourage the Planning Commission to approve the request with possibly these limitations, having it limited to 12 children, which she identified was what she wanted, and having it be for her and that it will cease to exist upon transfer of property. Again, I cannot stress enough that I think Ms. Sutton has really trying to make this exist with no impact on the immediate neighbors and surrounding neighborhood. It seems to fit into a neighborhood that has already that has the Historical Society building, a non-residential activity. We need to encourage such innovative thinking and entrepreneurial activities, but we need to face reality that there's a concern with interpretation and enforcement by staff. Hence, this seems to be a reasonable solution. It would be narrowly tailored to allow what seems to be permitted. I applaud Ms. Sutton for her application, as I've already said, and it merits repeating. She should be allowed to open her daycare and possibly do a second job for developers. I do have one slight suggestion, and that regarding the plant list, which is very impressive, I might add. She may want to consider butterfly weed, which provides nectar sources later in the season. I'd be happy to share seeds with her, and some other plants that I'd happy to talk with her offline. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm Silas Sutton, 337 Hubbard Street. Full disclosure, I am Sandra's husband and her business advisor. The one thing she didn't point out, she recently worked for the ISD. They actually modeled after her classroom with how well she performed, performing this exact function. I definitely understand all the concerns. I'm a business person, so she's way with kids and good with all that type of stuff. I'm a numbers person. The problem with 1 to 6, which she could do without your approval, is that that's not economically viable in the long term for where she needs the numbers to be and for the high standard that she has. She does plan to start out with 1 to 6, but when she goes from 7 to 12, if you want to pay people well and have that support network, you really need the license for 12. So just know, I don't know how long she'll go on 1 to 6, but for long-term viability, she would need that approval so that this whole undertaking would be worthwhile, numerically. So I just wanted to add that because I felt that was an important part to be taken into consideration. And to be clear, she's not doing it like for money, otherwise she could go get a commercial location. The problem with that is then she's going to need to charge more, and then that's going to take away the benefit of, with the goal of trying to add an affordable option to the community, because that's the feedback she's received, is that what we really need is this service, but we need it at an affordable level. And I know affordable varies person to person, but that's absolutely in her goal set, in her business plan. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Are you the last one, or are there more speakers? Please come up. Don't hesitate. Keep coming. Time is limited.
Hi, my name is Beverly Scher. My address is 20720 52nd Street in Grand Junction. I am Sandra's mother-in-law, and I know I don't live in your community. I am on the planning commission in my community, so I can, this is impressive, I've got to say, although we do all that too. But I wanted to say that I've known Sandra since she was 18 years old, and I have never met anyone quite like her before, and probably never will again. She is the most conscientious person I have ever known. And at times that can be a lot to live up to when you've got someone in your life who never not keeps her word. I know the type of person she is always concerned about everyone else around her, and I love that I'm retired from Kalamazoo County Head Start, and I love the fact that there is someone like her out there to give care to children. And if she can find a way to support young mothers in our community, because we've forgotten what that struggle was like. You know, I'm on the other side of all that, and I'm relieved for that, but the younger generation now, they're in the heat of it, the thick of it. They have to work, and some are more fortunate and may not have to work during that period of their child's life. But the children themselves need to have a nice, safe place to go and socialize and learn. And as a parent, you don't always have the skill that a preschool teacher might have. So I just wanted to express how great her character is, that's all, if that matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hey, I'm Megan Ellis. I live at 6458 113th Avenue in Fenville, and I am here because Sandra's an amazing person, and I won't take up much of your time. I'm sure you heard all of the everything. My daughter, my youngest one, was in the Ramstart program at preschool in South Haven, the 1 year that they had it, and she's just amazing teacher. I can't say enough great things about her. I'm sure that she, and on top of being a great person, who is just, I'm honestly one of the nicest people I've ever met. Greatest teacher. Like, my daughter still, she was so mad because I went to breakfast with her the other day and she didn't get to come with. I think this would be a great thing for the community. I lived here my whole life, like 2 blocks from where she lives, and, you know, I think that we need this. This town is, you know, struggling with a lot of different things, and I think this would bring a lot of great stuff to it. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I guess first up, Nick, could you speak to the limitations when they were referring to whether it would be transferable or not?
In fact, I think the applicant even made that offer.
Right, but Nick will give us the legal on this.
Sure. So the city zoning ordinance, section 1506-3, specifically says that special use permits may be transferred from one owner of property to which is fixed to the next owner of the same property. And then later in that same paragraph says permit transfer is automatic. So the zoning ordinance doesn't contemplate any limitation like that. Even though the applicant has offered it, that probably would prevent any challenge by the applicant if the planning commission were to impose it, but a subsequent owner could potentially challenge that condition as being contrary to the zoning ordinance. And also, the reason for the zoning ordinance provision, these provisions are really common throughout the state. I think every community I've worked with has them. The standards for special use permits don't turn on the character of the applicant. They turn on land use factors that aren't going to change from one owner to the next. If they do change from one owner to the next, then the special use permit doesn't apply. The special use permit only allows the next owner to do exactly the same thing as this owner is doing. So any conditions that you put on this, if you put conditions on the ages of the children, for example, or hours of operation, those are going to bind the next owner just like this owner. So my advice would be that condition, even though it's offered by the applicant, the city would be unlikely to be sued by this applicant, but it would create problems potentially with a future applicant. And I think the best way to address these concerns is to just put conditions on the land use itself, like hours of operation, limitations on ages of children, and that type of thing.
Are there any other questions for Nick?
Yeah, Nick, what is, I know special land use, and then there's a conditional use permit. What's the difference?
I don't believe does the city have conditional use permits? No,
Oh.
that's just different names for the same things. Different zoning ordinances call them
Different
differently.
things?
Yes.
Okay.
Questions for Nick?
I do have a question for Nick.
Okay, before we go to Brett.
Exactly. I'm intrigued by the language of the ordinance, Nick. If it says it may be transferred, under what conditions may it not be transferred?
It says it transfers automatic.
So that may is actually shall.
Yes.
And I also have a question, then you said it could potentially be problematic because the new individual would then take suit against that if they wanted to do that. So there's still a roll of the dice that we could put that into the special land use.
I suppose that's one way to put it.
Yeah, okay.
As I said, a challenge from this applicant seems very unlikely, almost impossible, but it does potentially create future problems if you have a subsequent buyer that
Okay.
wants to do it. You'd have this as a precedent. They'd be able to point to that precedent and basically say that denying them is unreasonable because you granted it to this owner on the exact same
Okay.
land use. But
Well, it looks like of the letter that we received, one of it was teenagers, so if we kept it at the same use of, and I think age 8 and under was what the applicant had in there, that would provide us with individuals nowhere close to teenagers.
And I do think an age limitation would be reasonable. I believe the applicant said it would be under 5 in the school year and potentially up to 8 in the summer, so you could even be that specific if
Just
that mattered.
keep it at 8, yeah.
Nick, Ms. Sutton also said the possibility of including it in her deed. Is that even possible?
No, I don't think that's possible because the city issued permit. She can't control it with a private. I guess she could. I guess she could deed restrict herself and say that no, she can't do it. She could always lift the deed restriction while she's the owner. I don't think that
Here's the
works.
last question that I would have for Nick, if I may. If an individual is issued a special use land permit, can they decide before selling it to petition the city to have it taken away?
I don't believe so. And that creates the same problem with a subsequent owner is going to say, I'm proposing to do the exact same thing. You have to grant me the permit because, yeah, I don't think that helps. What might help provide some comfort is there are provisions for revoking special use permits if there's any violation of the conditions.
So a wild party at the last month of ownership?
I suppose you could do that.
We could then have it removed. Okay, there is a way. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions?
One last one for Nick. So what I'm hearing is our option here, I mean, first of all, you said something that's very important, and I couldn't agree with you more. This is not a question of character or the experience. Ms. Sutton, we're really, really fortunate to have you in the community. From the letters we received and emails, I'd hate to have a situation where you couldn't use that talent because it's dearly needed and you're dearly qualified. But beyond that, that's not what we're considering. We're considering land use. And my concern, as always, is any creep of commercialization into our neighborhoods gives me heartburn. I get concerned. I like to keep our residential areas purely residential. So I really enjoyed that Ms. Sutton recognized that this was limited to her ownership and is willing to give up that license, if you will, at the time that the land is sold. But as I'm hearing, that wouldn't make a difference because the land gets to choose whether it keeps the permit or not, and the land's going to keep it. Now, what that has put us in a position to do is to come up with enough tight criteria, working with Ms. Sutton, to basically make this a business no one else would want. That's really what we're saying. You know, it's like when she's done and she's ready to retire, no other business person would look at that and say, I want to keep that going. So that's a really tough situation for us. I mean, we really don't have, I'm hearing no other possible avenue we have to get around once this land use is granted. That land use is there.
What I'm saying is I would recommend against the condition that she's offered. I mean, this board could impose the condition, but it's not recommended. In my view, it's contrary to the zoning ordinance, and I think it could create problems. Admittedly, those problems are years down the road, but that's the issue, is what the next owner would say.
Understood. That's tough. Have to put a condition for your party in there.
Okay.
Nick, I have one other question. She can use it for the group daycare as a group daycare facility. So if anybody else comes in, they would have to use it for a group care facility, not necessarily a nursing home or assisted living home or a rehab home or anything like that. It has to be this specifically.
It would have to be the use as defined in the zoning ordinance, plus any further definition that you put in this approval. So you could condition it
Hours and age.
to being hours, age,
Okay.
specifically to being a licensed preschool. I think that's unique to this operator potentially. You can do the best you can to pin it to this specific proposal, to where a future owner would have to come in and do the exact same thing as this applicant is proposing.
Mm-hmm.
Said much better than I said it.
Would there need to be any conditions as far as buffering goes? I know there's already a fence installed. As far as like the curtains around the deck or anything like that need to be specified, or because that's in the plan, we don't need to specify that as a condition?
So is there a site plan submitted with this? So the special use would be tied to the site plan, and we'd be able to enforce that site plan as submitted and approved.
Okay.
Okay, was that all the questions for Nick at the moment? Okay, I'm going to turn to you, Brad, if you want to give a quick synopsis of your review.
I think Nick pretty much summarized all of it.
But you're here, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, we see a lot of these in residential neighborhoods. The state's defined family childcare and group daycare facilities as residential uses when zoning is placed on it. It's not considered a commercial use. When we look at like this situation, the principal factors that appear to come up primarily are the nuisance type questions or concerns, traffic and noise. Overall, this application I felt was very well put together. She had a very good plan, a good structure for the business, how she wants to operate the business, the way that the yard's going to be designed. The state, I believe through the Child Care Act, does require that if you have outdoor play area, required a certain amount for a group daycare or group child care facility, that it is required to be fenced and gated. So that is, again, on the site plan. I believe that the Child Care Act also has to do an annual inspection on these things too. So the state keeps up with these facilities pretty regularly. Kelly, has she talked about doing 14 at all? No?
Not with me. I guess
Okay.
she's still here, so we could ask her.
Okay, that's one of the things that popped in my head. But really, overall, I think, when thinking about this, you're primarily concerned with, as Nick had stated, laying conditions down, regulating hours of operation, which I think she's clearly defined, and what she would like to do. The age of the children is fine, because I do believe it's just defined as a minor, and technically they could fit under the definition of a minor in the state. So if that's something that, and that's one of our recommendations, is to do something like that. So, I agree with Nick pretty much in everything that you say there about that, placing these types of conditions on any special land use in particular, but this type of special land use will help some of the concerns about later on down the road.
Right, okay, very good. Maybe if we could get Ms. Sutton to come back up to the podium for a moment. And your question again, Brad, was what?
I'm not, yeah, oh.
Repeat your question,
I'm not,
if you
I'm
would,
not
Brad.
sure, 14,
In June, I believe, and Nick, you may be able to help me confirm this, but I think in June, the state passed an amendment to the group daycare facility, or the group childcare or family childcare facility, that if you meet a certain list of conditions after a period of time in passing all of these requirements, that you're permitted one additional bonus if you have a license to operate a 1 to 6, or 2 if you do a 7 to 12. So after a long period of time and you pass all of these certifications with the state, that you may be able to receive up to 2 bonus children at the home.
Okay.
So.
This is new information for me, but off the bat, my primary goal is to have a program that has low student-to-teacher ratios. I want something that fits harmoniously into our neighborhood. I am quite satisfied at 12. If I think of, adding more, that's something that I thought maybe commercially down the line, but I am comfortable capping it at 12 if that's something that you see fit as a condition.
Could you reiterate your age ranges you were targeting?
Sure. So the students that will be there for the year-round program are ages 3 to 5. And then in the summer, I'm considering working with children from 3 to 8 for a series of seasonal sporadic camps that they're similar to what I ran when I was at the Bailey Museum. So that's kind of what I have in mind.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions while she's up at the podium again?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think it's sufficient information now.
So I got a follow-up question for Brad. So the 14, that is in conflict with our ordinance right now, isn't it?
It is. It's in conflict with the ordinance, and if it is state regulation, that would supersede our ordinance. No?
No. This is new to me. I'm looking at it on the fly, but it does. So subsection 3 of this act says that the department will deny a license to a child caring institution that doesn't comply with zoning. Oh, section 206 of the Zoning Enabling Act.
Yeah, which says it's just special land use.
So that would.
I believe. I think you could condition it to be limited to 12. I think our zoning ordinance already does that, but you could clarify that based on the new statute and impose that condition of 12.
Yeah, okay. I can make a motion. I can make a
Are you
motion.
writing one, or?
Well, I have another question as well. I mean, and again, pardon my naivety. I mean, one of the things that's attractive about this proposal is we have a neighbor looking to do something great in the neighborhood to a purpose that will help the entire community. So I love the fact that it's a resident running this operation. Is there any way we can have a restriction on special land use that it remains a home business, where the principal is in residence at the business?
Yes.
Because I think that will keep the bond back to the neighborhood. It's your neighbor doing this, so that makes sense.
Okay, so then we couldn't have an LLC from Chicago purchase it and just use the building as a
Yeah, well,
daycare school during the day.
listen, I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but I don't want to wake up someday and see a commercial daycare center in the middle of our city, in the middle of a neighborhood. And what I'm hearing, this is the use of someone's home.
Right.
Which is entirely a different use of that property.
Okay.
Let me just throw this out though, Mike. We've seen time and time again, all our business-zoned areas turn into condominiums, PUDs. We've lost an awful lot of industrial and business property due to residential incursion, so it's interesting.
Well, you know where I'm coming from.
I do.
It's a current debate in the city.
Yes, it is.
We had local.
Go on forever.
Local school property turned into residential, and those guys are all,
Well, and you
they're
don't
just,
want.
they're just nutty.
Unless there's any more questions for staff, does anybody wish to put a motion forward?
I'm going to try to put a motion together.
Okay.
That I think
And go slow when you do this.
I'm going to go slow.
Because I assume this is going to be on the fly, not
Well, kind of,
specifically
yeah.
what staff
The-
put in here.
And make a motion to approve the special land use for 337 Hubbard Street with the following conditions. One, the hours of operation shall be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Two, the applicant files a copy of the state license with the city for record purposes. That's the two that's in there now. Three, that the age restriction of the children shall be up to 8 years old. Four, the maximum capacity of 12 children. Now I think I'm at 5, which is the permit needs to be used at the home, and the home needs to be a residence. If you want to clean that last one up.
I don't know how to say it, but I understand. That's the intent.
I think we've heard the intent of mitigate most of what the neighbors were looking for. At the same time, it still aligns with the applicant.
And did you want to include Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, or just the hours, 8 to 4?
Just the hours.
So not limiting the weekend days? Is that correct?
If we're following her plan, it would be hours Monday through Friday, 8 to 4.
Then we can add that hours also Monday, 8 to 4.
Okay.
That should keep it out of both soccer and football and track and band and everything else that happens in that neighborhood.
Okay. What was the last, well, we'll get a second, and then I'll ask my question.
I'll second that.
Okay. What was the last part of that again, of your motion?
The last part had to
what was
do
the
with
intent?
trying, the intent was that the 337 Hubbard Street needs to be utilized as a residence. So we don't have someone purchase it, and nobody lives there. It's basically just a school, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4.
Okay.
And it has to be part of a local business. that is, and it sounds like we can do that in the special land use as long as it's still being utilized as a residential home.
Nick, is that,
By the, does that
that
help?
work?
Does that work? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Nick, could we also say that we could attach this to the original site plan?
Yes, that, in my opinion, that happens automatically with special land use, but you can add that as a condition.
Has my motion been seconded?
Yes, George did, so
Okay,
Janice will have to amend the motion.
Well, no, it was a question primarily if, I mean, because she has this wonderful site plan, and it spells it all out, and it has all of the, most of what you said. But I was just wondering if we could refer to the site plan the original site plan as a part of that. Although granted, I've read it and I've gone through it, but now that we're having this discussion, I don't know if there's anything more to add to what Clark has already said.
Well, we've amended every motion tonight, why not this one? Go ahead. You can attach it as a motion
You
to
can
attach it as a
attach it to the
condition.
motion, and we'll,
Yeah,
All right,
Go ahead.
I propose that we attach this to the motion.
okay. The
The
site plan,
The site plan,
okay. The motion is to attach the site plan,
the original site plan.
the original site plan. Okay,
to the permit.
yes, to the permit.
That needs support.
Okay, it's supported by Mike. Any other discussion? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion's been amended. Is there any other discussion on the amended motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, very good. 8:30 almost. Anybody want a break before we head into the big ticket items of zoning text amendments, building height zoning, and downtown social district?
Well, maybe we
I
just.
would like a break.
Why don't we just take a quick break, and that allows the room to.
Can we have a motion?
I make a motion, we adjourn for 5 minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and supported that we adjourn for 5 minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We'll be back at 8:27 or thereabout.
They have one where
I knew what the
everyone
ordinance says.
pay for it. Now it's free, but you got to qualify.
Used to have a lot of grandparents that lived in the same kids.
It's harder for you guys. Really thank the audience today too, because they were listening to each other.
All right, George, what page are we on?
Yeah, you should see it sometimes.
And so that's,
Item 6. Are you there, or do I gotta find it?
We don't need security.
Got it.
Thanks.
These are all nebulous.
My poor dogs are home alone.
oh boy.
I know.
Can you see them? Are they up to no
I'll be
good?
checking on
I
them.
hope.
They're in a crate. They're crated.
Kelly, are you ready?
It's the site plan submittal.
Oh, okay.
You guys ready?
Make it
Starts
continue.
on
My
page
dogs are still
35.
sleeping, so we're okay.
Ready?
Call the meeting back to order. We'll have agenda item 6, proposed amendment to site plan submittal requirements. Who on staff is going to give us a synopsis for
I
this
can
one?
do it.
Okay, Kelly.
Okay, so this item is a revised version of the site plan submittal requirements that the Planning Commission has been reviewing over the past couple of meetings. This version eliminates a couple of the provisions that the members of this board felt were duplicative, and it does allow authorized staff or boards to waive site plan submittal requirements. That's something that we talked about last time, but with the addition that the waivers must be documented. It does retain the requirement to submit a noise assessment using the HUD tool, but now for all multifamily developments. And this tool ensures soundproofing on the walls. We talked about that a little bit last time, too. The text retains a requirement for a Phase 1 environmental assessment and some additional documentation like a Phase 2 and a baseline assessment, as well as an escrow deposit to be made for third-party environmental consultant to be made available to review the documents. One item of note is the packet refers to the removal of Figure 2.3, which is a diagram related to building height, and that provision, that text should only appear in the height amendment text, not the site plan submittal text. So last time we did close the public hearing, so we need to open a new public hearing tonight.
Right. That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Not too many changes.
Any questions for staff about what was submitted here? No? Okay. Entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open a public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to open public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this item, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. You're the leadoff man for the crowd tonight.
Dan
man.
Agnello again, 964 Everett Parkway. I have a problem with the fact that the zoning administrator can waive any submittals. I think it should just be the planning commission. That's the planning commission's job. Also, it says a person specifically authorized may waive that. I don't know what that means. That means if I don't like the neighbor next door, or I think I'm an expert in whatever it is, and I go over there and say, hey, they shouldn't have that waiver. Who defines who that person is, okay? Are they qualified? There's no details in there to say how that is done. And then this other question came up a long time ago. Do we have a waiver file? We asked about this about a year ago for Trailside 1 when they had all the exemptions for setbacks, the front setbacks and whatever. And there wasn't one, so I asked Kelly, do we have one for Phase 2, the original Phase 2, remember 2A, whatever it was on before, which was St. Joe and Everett across from me, but now it's new Phase 2, which is on Elkinburg in Indiana. And there still is no file. I don't know logs, but the ordinance says to keep a log, okay? And this brings up a problem, because when staff referenced Phase 2, they said, oh, all these setbacks were approved for Phase 2A or in original Phase 1. You can't do that. Every single time you submit it, you have to get it redone. And also, it was an error, because if you look at the meeting minutes, you look at all the documentation, okay? The only thing that was approved was front setbacks. There was no side setbacks, garage setbacks, or anything. But the remarks in the Phase 2 one said that the precedents of these said they can do what they want, and that's what was used to approve. You guys used to approve it, and which the city council just approved on Monday night. And so that premise is wrong. So how can they approve that when there's no documentation? I requested documentation. Show me in writing. Show me at the meetings that was approved, all those setbacks. They weren't. Only one, the front 15 feet instead of 25 feet. That's what we have in Phase 1. All the houses, mine's 16 feet, all the other houses are either 15, 16, or 17 feet from the sidewalk, okay? That's it, thank you.
Next.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. First, I don't believe you mentioned Nancy Nat's name, and she, I know, provided comments. First, the amendment process that the city is using needs to be revised. You do a red line from the last version, which fails to show the red line from the original. You can accept previous changes that are not being further modified, but you need to have them in different colors, so you know how it's being modified from the original, and you need to leave deleted material so that we know when we are comparing one version to the next what's been modified and what's been deleted. Regarding point C in this dry cat for the noise, the report incorrectly refers to it as 1405H, it's 1H, and there should have been no confusion as to what attached dwellings units meant in the September version and the confusion in the staff report in the September, because the September report referenced detached units on page 59 and the draft ordinance referenced attached. So the confusion was how everything was drafted by the staff. It wasn't that there was an error with the ordinance. The whole goal is to make the ordinance easy to read and less subjective to creative interpretation of city staff / city manager. How does the use of unlimited term accomplish this? So you are now saying the proposed multifamily dwellings, but what is a multifamily dwelling? Is it one 3-unit dwelling, one 20-unit dwelling, one 55-unit dwelling? Do you even really want a huge dwelling like that in South Haven? I asked each PC member, would you want to live right next to the huge building that you allowed in Overton that had 55 or 58 units? You need to ask yourself, how many number of dwelling buildings and how many dwelling units within it? Look at the definitions. With regard to waivers, Dan's already raised that. In light of the mistakes from the building department, employees, contractors, consultants, there's a lawsuit against the city from the owners of 77 Clinton, and quite disappointed community members. There was an appeal to ZBA recently for 240 Oak because of decisions. I completely oppose giving the zoning administrator or any single person sole discretion to waive anything. As I've said previously, 15052 requires striking for such authority of a single individual. If you will not remove that, then you need to at least change it to a recommendation and put that onus on the planning commission, who then is appointed and peers of our community, not a single person. And last but not least, the criteria. It mentions that it would be waived based on criteria, but the list of criteria is missing. Shame on staff for omitting the most critical part of the checks and balances that it's supposed to provide. Regarding 1718, requiring the ESA and the dwelling units, 1718 is actually worse with regard to the terminology versus 14051H. You have to include what kind of dwellings now. You just have dwelling units, so what kind of dwelling is it? Is it multifamily? Which is it? And how many dwelling units and how many dwelling buildings? I've seen more confusion added versus less clarification provided. Or no, less. and less clarification included. Amendment 21718 failed to transcribe 1406 properly. So you're striking 1406, and 1406 was amended originally when it was adopted to include the cumulative square footage, because we're looking at what is the impact on the land, and it's the amount of the soil being uprooted and the surface area from water from runoff. And the change that was provided is it's a new structure with 1,800 square feet as opposed to a cumulative square footage. So the proposal removes the protection that has the appearance of trying to confuse what is being proposed. I repeat, so this is either sloppy draftsmanship or intentional failure to communicate what is and is not being done to protect our neighborhoods. Is this what we have to look forward to with the recodification? Is this why you want the zoning administrator or other persons to have power to waive requirements because of errors in draftsmanship or failure to anticipate unintended consequences? Also, there's several places where must is used and it should be shall. And with regard to 1718.3, Nancy, that's where she had written, and it should say the Planning Commission shall require the recommended submissions that may include one of the others, and there shall be no authority of any person or body specifically authorized under this ordinance to waive this section, because otherwise you are providing no benefit if it can be waived.
Mary, hang on one second. What was your comment about the red line provided in this packet, real quick, if you would?
Sure. So the red line is showing the differences from the previous version,
Yes.
right? The previous version showed red lines from the original. So by going from the previous version, you are now no longer comparing it to the original.
Okay, I now understand what you were referring to.
And that's where drafting errors begin.
Oh, okay, thank you. Next. No one? Okay. Entertain a motion to, well, I don't know. No, let's not close the public hearing. We learned from that last time. Let's just leave it open for now. Right? Okay, where do you want to go with this?
I guess a question was raised about 1405, 2, B as in boy. And that has to do with,
What page are you on?
oh, what page am I on? I spent all that time doing that, and I could have gone with page, it would have been
39
easier.
on the-
It
on the
is
non-red line version.
39? 1405. Gotta find that all the way down there.
Section
To-
1405, final site plan submittal
To
requirements.
46?
Oh, it's page 40
Page 40.
on the non-red line version.
The non-red line version. There we go. That's true. That was one I was working on. Really? 1405. The person or body specifically authorized under the ordinance to waive. I mean, that would be, that would be like when we have the fire go and sign off and approve something for us. Is that what we're thinking?
So there are a couple places in the zoning ordinance where waivers or specific criteria for waivers exist. One of them that comes to mind is the city council can waive conditions of a PUD. There's another one where the traffic engineer can waive submission of certain
Okay.
traffic-related things. And this is kind of a catch-all to refer, we did go through and find all those places in the zoning ordinance, but we know that there are a few of them. And this just means that where there is one of those, they can grant the waiver following the specifics of that section that applies.
Thank you.
The only question I had on this was, Kelly already addressed it. It was the discussion about the deletion of figure 2.3, which I didn't understand why that was in this one versus the height.
My mistake, sorry.
Nothing?
Just a clarification from Nick, again, I'm a little slower than the rest of the people up here, so the ordinance, as you just outlined, grants the waiver authority, but only to those things that have been predetermined as waiverable.
Yes, so subsection B, subsection 2B refers to the waivers that already exist in the zoning ordinance. Subsection 2A, I think, is similar to language that exists in the ordinance that's being replaced, but what it says is the zoning administrator or the planning commission can waive one or more submittal requirements, but only upon determining that such item, I added that, let me just read it straight. The zoning administrator or planning commission may waive one or more submittal requirements upon determining that such item is not pertinent to the application. So that last clause is supposed to be a limiting clause. It's only for things that are just inapplicable. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but say there's a requirement that just doesn't have any relevance to a project for whatever reason. It's saying that they can not require that specific item, but only if it's just completely unnecessary. And that should be, presented in the staff report to the planning commission, and the planning commission can always override that determination if the planning commission disagrees that it's waivable.
Yes, so if an individual made a determination that it was inapplicable, it would still have to come to this body.
So it would be only the zoning administrator that would make that determination, and it would be noted in the staff report. And if the planning commission disagrees that it's inapplicable, then the planning commission wouldn't have to approve the plan. It could go back and ask for the submittal of that document.
So there is a remedy available through planning commission for a decision that we might disagree with.
Yes, because these are site plan, site plan requirements that would be coming for site plan review.
Thank you, Nick.
I think that's what, and I've always thought that's why we have the professional staff do that work on our behalf. So,
Did anybody have an issue with the way the original document was redlined?
It didn't grab my eye, but
Okay.
that's not.
Well, I
the
just
way
want
my
to make
mind
sure
works.
everybody was clear on the language, and if not, then I would say ask staff to redo that. But I just want to make sure everyone was on board with how it developed.
Discussed it in the support material. It said that the red line was the proposed ordinance showing changes since the September meeting, so I understood.
Okay.
And
That's-
It
I just wanted to make
It
sure.
is possible to go back to the original, and I, in fact, will do that when this goes to city council. If the planning commission wants to see compared to the original every time we can, just for sake of
Well, that's why I'm
paper.
asking. I don't know if they need to, because I understood it, but.
I understood it as well. Taking the full all the way to city council would be, a good way to go. Mary makes a good point to get us from A to B, but we've got all the background to get.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure going forward from right now, if we need to take a step back but I thought, it's up to you guys. Just want to make sure everybody knows what is presented.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Any additional changes? Are you happy with it? Do we need to have another meeting?
I mean, all the changes that we had talked about
Yes.
last time were incorporated to my satisfaction, so I don't
Okay.
feel I need to.
I'm too willing to send it to council, first closing the public meeting, but not ready to close a public meeting yet, until we're ready to close a public meeting.
Right. And since we're, how many short? 4? Can't have too close a vote, is what I'm saying. Otherwise, it'll fail. If you're not happy with the language, so it'd be better to maybe put it off till you get more if we're split. if you need more information, but you have to make it clear to staff what you'd like to see next.
I don't see anything else I would like to see.
Well, and I guess my comment, he's not here to defend himself, but I'll pull a Larry. And I am reminded that this goes to city council for the decision. I see nothing that bars me from, that would have me vote no to not sending it to him. I think I'm ready to support that. But that doesn't mean I fully embrace the language. I do share some concerns, and it's not personal, it's not about this city. But no individual should have decision-making power without appropriate checks and balances, period. I'm satisfied that there is remedies that should something egregious happen, in our determination, then we have a way to address it. So I'm happy with that.
And that was one of the reasons why last time we added the additional language that anytime there's a waiver, it's got to be documented.
All right, where do you want to go from here? If you want to make a motion, you first have to close the, if you want to make a motion to send this to city council, you first have to close the public hearing.
I guess the practical question here is this a decision that has enough gravity that we want to wait for a full planning commission to take a look at it? Or should we send it on? That's my only hiccup.
And I look at it as every meeting has a potential for another different set of individuals not to be here. I think we've been lucky that quite a few meetings in a row, we've had very good attendance.
Oh, no, I don't disagree with that. I was reflecting the chairman's statement about the size of the people voting tonight. Not our
Well, I just
physical
wanted
size.
to
I'm working-
caution you, if there's a split vote up here, then it'll fail.
Right.
You don't have the same luxury as when you have a full board.
That's correct.
So if anyone intends on making a motion to recommend to city council, first you'll have to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Let's do it.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Next up is a motion to do something with this.
I make a motion to propose this ordinance and recommend it to the city council for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to recommend. Any other discussion? Okay. No? You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Next up, item 7, building height zoning text amendments. Public hearing is still open on this one. I think we'll do, just like last time, Kelly, if you'd like to do a quick synopsis.
Okay. Public hearing is still open. This is another set of text amendments the Planning Commission has been reviewing over the course of a couple of meetings. The text that you all have been reviewing has removed story limitations in all of the zoning districts at the direction of City Council, and building height would be measured in numerical feet only rather than feet and stories. Based on Commissioner comments from the last meeting, the text allowing up to 12 inches of fill on a property has been removed, and residential height maximum has been reduced to 30 feet from 35 feet. In addition, based on some recommendations from Ed Morse of Mitchell and Morse, we are proposing to calculate building height from up to 2 feet away from the building, We're asking for spot elevations to be submitted for all buildings within 3 feet of the maximum allowable height. And we would require builders to leave a benchmark on the lot that would remain undisturbed during site preparation and construction. And that benchmark would be established at a known elevation and will help determine building height after construction. We did consider the possibility of measuring height from some fixed point, such as road right-of-way, a public right-of-way, but this is not a methodology that we would recommend. We have not found other ordinances that use this method for measuring building height. Topography can change over time through no actions of the property owner, and building sites that are downhill from right-of-way could end up significantly taller than they would otherwise be permitted to be. So those were our comments about this text, and we're looking forward to your decisions and next steps.
I like you guys communicated with Ed. I thought his input was interesting, definitely. Okay, public hearing's still open. Would anybody like to speak on this item? And Mr. Leadoff. Okay.
You know me and building heights, we've been through this a million times with Trailside. I give you guys kudos. You finally made a difference. If we'd have done this a year or so ago, we wouldn't have had those 39-foot houses on Elkenberg, okay? And like I said before, the highest home right now in Trailside 1 is 25 feet 6 inches. You guys did a survey, said the average in the city is 28, so the 30 feet, I'm happy to see that. And RM1 is limited now to 30 feet, not 35 feet. So Trailside Everett Park LC can't build 35-foot duplexes across the street from me, okay? At least, on Indiana and Elkenberg, they could still do it across the street because that's a different phase, okay? But another thing we have to consider is square footage. Now, this may sound ridiculous, but I forgot my photos tonight, but if you go look on that new house that was supposed to be renovated on Edgell between Kalamazoo and Center, that basically is 2 of the 300 Erie houses, you know how big that house is on Erie, put together with a little section in between where the front door is, okay? And next to him is a real small gray ranch, so probably 1,000 to 1,200 square foot ranch, and the whole neighborhood is single-story ranches. And this building is way out of character. You know, I talked many times about, and it's listed in the PUD and it's listed in the ordinances, the character of the neighborhood. Now, it wasn't considered, I don't think, considered hard enough on Trailside 2, but we did get a lot of things pushed in there for the heights, which is okay. We got a lot of other things to consider, but at least we got the heights down. But you've seen what happened numbers of times. Monroe, the big one with the pool and the swimming pool and the hot tub, and the area coverage, you know, it's ridiculous. I mean, we got to do something with square foot. I understand these people have a right to build a house, but it's unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I went down there on my bike ride today, and I went to the other one that's on Edgell farther up toward Indiana, and it's a nice little 2-story, okay, great. And then I went to the next block, and I thought, I almost fell over. I said, I can't believe this. It's a mansion. I mean, I think it's the biggest house right now in the city as far as new construction. And like I said, it's completely surrounded by ranches. The entire street of Edgell in that area, and in fact, the other part of Edgell is probably all ranches too. But I think we ought to consider square footage, and, you know, and character. It's the character of the neighborhood, and we're losing it. Everybody knows it. Everybody says that. These big houses are ruining the character, no matter what they're for. If they're for residents, you know, seasonal people, or STRs, they're ruining the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Anyone else? How many in the audience plan to speak on this item? Just one more? Okay.
Mary Hasley, 706 North Shore Drive. This item actually is not properly before you. If you look at section 2500 on continuations, it says that the Planning Commission desires to make a major changes in the proposed amendment. It shall either adjourn the hearing, announcing at that time the time and place of the continuation thereof, or set a new time. The minutes of the last meeting were accepted, and there is no new time and date set. So this is improperly before you, and in fact, the notices are not even on the website. But you'll probably ignore it like everything else, so I will continue. I support the 30 feet height. However, as I've said in previous agendas about making changes, let's be clear that it would apply to additions, with regard to the amendments, additions and deletions. So 7232-2A is new, and as I requested last time, the grading should not be just pushed through if building heights were not originally included on it. It's time that this stops, that things get pushed through because they're deficient. It should include that it can be reviewed if the grading plan included building heights for all buildings. 1732B is also newly added, and it says the zoning administrator shall determine natural grade. Well, first of all, I don't think the zoning administrator is qualified to do that. I think they lack all credentials, not personal, it's just, I don't think any of the previous ones could have either. And 32B, did you talk to any builders? Because it imposes a condition on the building permit that the requirement that no one or more, require that one or more benchmarks on the property remain undisturbed during preparation of the construction. So I'm not sure that's feasible. I take great issue with the terminology used for average, finished, or more for natural. Natural is what? Man-made? What it was there before anything started? I suggest you use something like original, when the application was filed. I have proposed changes, but I don't have the time to go through it all. But one suggestion that I will go over is average original would be the arithmetic average of the grade at the highest point within 2 feet of the exterior corner of an existing building and the lowest point within 2 feet of any exterior corner of a building proposed for construction or modification. If there currently is no building where construction is to occur, average grade shall be estimated arithmetic average of the grade at the highest point and lowest point within 2 feet of the proposed location of any exterior corner of any proposed building. What right now is not sufficient and not clear. I do appreciate that some people will not want the lower 30 feet, but the table was quite helpful, and I think that's what we need to focus on. The goal is to have homes characteristic of our neighborhood and affordable for a range of home buyers. Towards that goal, let's add some depth. I had, through FOIA, obtained information from the 6 buildings approved with more than 2 stories, which brought this all about. Ironically, one, which is 50% of those are STRs, business STRs, and ironically, 104 Erie, which is still under construction, already has been able to apply for an STR, which blows my mind. How can a building that does not have an occupancy permit get and be able to file an STR permit? Please explain that to me. And please, in that process, also advise whether other people with buildings under construction have applied for STR permits and were not granted. Is everyone being treated equally? Does it depend on the staff who's answering the questions? Does it depend on the quality of the answer, the creative thinking that the staff is getting? I would dare say that none of that is acceptable, and that is some of the holes that are in the current zoning ordinance that is not properly before you tonight.
Hi, I'm Mary Lynn Boogie, 70 Gabriel Drive. I'd like to state my concern with lowering the height to 30 feet. I have a concern because 35 feet has been, or above, has been in the ordinance for many, many years. The current styles of houses flux and flow. Used to be everyone wanted a ranch house, and that's why we see some of them in the city. We also have very high Victorians in the city. We have the current housing now where the style is for steeply pitched roofs, which tends to add extra height. People also now like higher inside height for their ceilings. So I have a concern. My house, I happen to have my plans. I took it out, measured my plans, and I would probably be non-conforming if this goes through with the 30-foot height. So I asked you to take those things into consideration as you're doing this. I do, however, have a concern that the ordinance, in two particular areas, is considering removing the number of stories, and that is in the CBD district and in the mixed-use PUD. And I say this because I believe when we had an application for the credit union downtown and they wanted to have more stories, there was a great deal of opposition to increasing the number of stories allowed downtown. I don't want to see this as being a backdoor way of increasing the number of stories allowed downtown. If we're going to address it, let's address it directly by seeing that what the community wants as far as added height downtown, if they do or if they don't. So I'd like to keep those things in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, Nick, first question. We were questioned on the ability to keep a public hearing open. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we did it the proper way. Is that correct or not?
My understanding of the objection was that the planning commission didn't specifically indicate when this item would be coming back to the planning commission in its motion. But my just memory from the meeting was that it was clear it was coming back at the next meeting. I haven't looked at the minutes to see if it reflects that, but that was my understanding. If that was the planning commission's understanding as well, I would say that this is proper.
Okay. It's here, so at this meeting. All right. Anybody have any comments on this?
I have a question regarding to one of the gentleman's questions. As far as square footage on a lot, what is, Brad, do we have anything in the city in terms of square footage?
Lot coverage maximums? Yes, there is.
There is, okay.
So I guess one question, this is going to section 1732, and it's the first section there. It says, building height shall generally be measured from the average natural grade. And my question is on the term generally. Is that because there's other exceptions later on, like if the natural grade has been disturbed and things like that, where you have to get into some of the exceptions?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, that provision is qualified by the next paragraph, which is how it works when the natural grade has been disturbed.
I do feel that the data that staff has provided indicates that in general, people do try to build their houses in style with their neighborhood, and that the majority of them were built less than 30 feet. I'm kind of also concerned with dropping the height limitation to 30 feet, just because I feel that then we as a body now are creating non-conforming properties, and I don't like to create non-conforming properties if I can avoid it. And I think the data shows that the majority of people build less than 35 feet anyway, so that's my point on that.
I guess that was also my concern. It's been 35 for a really long time. With the nearly 60 homes that are there, 75% of them appear to be under 30 now, and I think they are built to what's applicable to the area. Even a couple of those, the homes on Elkenberg, one's 35 and one's 34, because we do need to measure them per grade. So, I wouldn't want to see it reduced to 30. I think it needs to go back to the 35. I appreciate removing the 12-inch positive drain allowance. Then we just know exactly where we're at. And thirdly, I can't remember the last time I've looked at a map that didn't have Mitchell and Morris stamped in the bottom of it. So to reach out to somebody in the community for that kind of input, I think was the right thing for staff to do when it comes to pulling in that additional information. So I mean, those are my comments. I think we're really where we need to be. I would just want to go back to the 35 feet.
Yeah, I guess I was one of the ones fighting for the 30 feet. And let's not forget, we also talked about 2.5 stories during that same discussion. So we raised that to 3. That was, to me, the compromise for the 30. And my basis for that is looking at the Planning Commission and zoning on a higher level. Zoning, to me, is to try to create or maintain the character and tradition of the neighborhoods. It provides the protection to those of us that lives in a neighborhood that those of you that live in a condo association or housing association have by your rules. The only thing we have in our neighborhoods is zoning. I don't think if you took this list, which, by the way, staff, thank you for putting that list together. That was great. Those are new permits since 2021, mind you. Those don't take into account the older homes in our neighborhoods. But clearly, if you check out the ones that are 3 stories and you walk past them, those are not residential homes. Please, let's stop calling them homes. Families will not reside in those buildings. Anytime you see a 5-bedroom home with a 1-bedroom or a 1-car garage, that's a pretty big hint that that was not built to be a family residence. So zoning should protect us to some degree and let us keep some semblance of the character of our neighborhoods. 35 feet is not the character of our neighborhoods. It's the recent characterization of our neighborhoods. But ultimately, too, we must consider the brand of this town. People come here because it's quaint. People come here because of our cottages. We can't possibly hurt our brand equity by turning this into neighborhoods full of quite, sorry about my words, big boxes that were built for purpose to get the maximum occupancy and the maximum rent they can out of that piece of property. So I'm pretty stuck on the 30. I'll vote against raising it back to 35, and I'm still stuck on 2.5. If we truly want to keep the tradition and character of our neighborhoods, that's where it belongs. Now, I also admit that tradition and character of our neighborhoods is subjective, and everyone's got a different opinion on that. But I think the residents have been very clear about their desire to keep our neighborhoods with the traditional footprints and the traditional character that we've had. That's where I'm at.
I'm in agreement with Mike. I'm looking at the chart, and the chart is indicating that the majority of the homes without house permits issued since 2021 to the present, the majority are either 30 or below. And I do think the character of our neighborhoods continues to be important, and in the future, I'd like to also have a discussion about square footage on lots, too.
That's probably a nice segue for my comment. Part of this has been proposed to be easier for staff to navigate getting rid of the story definition, correct? And I'm still a proponent of using the story definition or making it more explicit. And I'll tell you why. I've done a lot of additional reading on this through many communities, and probably especially the National Planning Commission, with pros and cons regarding just having a height limit. And it's highly recommended, if you only go with a height limit, you get into the square footage part, and you also consider light angles. And with every ordinance they had, there were 4 to 6 pages of diagrams with size of homes that you can have at this height with That way, one house wasn't blocked from sunlight. And if you remember, the whole reason planning commissions exist and zoning started, it was in New York when somebody had a house in the downtown and somebody put up like an 8-story building next to them. And that was the beginning of zoning. So I'm not in favor of this. I'd rather we be more specific and explicit on what story definition is, but that's my thought on what we have in front of us.
And I guess I'll add one more thought to my thought. I mean, I certainly sympathize and empathize with the difficulty our staff has to take care of all the business that comes their way. But that's no reason not to do what's necessary. If this is indeed the ordinances we're adopting and the way we want to lay out, then we need to staff the city appropriately and spend the resources to staff up. So it's not a burden anymore. We created this scenario. We need to staff it appropriately, so the consideration that it's too complex for the staff to work with is no longer a criteria. We want to do what's right, not what's expedient.
Okay, what do you want to do? Is there a continuation or
I'm
close the public hearing?
I'm thinking of a continuation. Compared with where we were with the last item, I still think this item needs more discussion with the full group.
Okay. Well, make a motion for continuation stating the date and time of the next meeting, if that's what you want to do. Not suggesting
Do we need
anything.
to give staff any more direction on what to do with this? Because it seems like the five of us here are kind of all over the board as far as, I mean,
well,
if I were
this group
Kelly,
has
I
been-
wouldn't know what to do
Well,
with.
this group has been working. This is the product of the discussions. And the way to amend this for me is probably not the same for you guys, right?
I think from staff's perspective, we were asked by city council to present a draft that eliminates story references, and that's what we've done.
Mhm. So
I think if this group is not supportive of that, that's, a much different conversation.
And there's 4 missing out of 9.
But one of the reasons that we were looking to remove the story limitations is because we have currently non-conforming properties. And I think the current proposal just gets us into more non-conforming properties, which I don't think is the right direction to go.
I hear you, George, but I'm just of a different opinion that says we shouldn't gloss over what we've already done. They're non-conforming for a reason. And we should not have to live with prior decisions as being the projection of our future. I think certainly when I talk to my neighbors, character of the neighborhoods have changed, and we want it to stop.
And changes are one thing we can agree will continually happen.
Correct.
Because if we look at many of these homes, they were small little homes that have this addition and this addition. I mean, going to some of the homes, I think my house, which was actually up on the screen there, it was built in 1888, and I know that, we made major changes to it, and many other people made major changes to it prior to that. So we have 50-foot lots in town, and we have 66-foot lots in town. At some point, there was a change. So change is going to happen.
But we also need to be concerned about changes that we have some impact on.
Mhm.
Another changes happen. We continue to lose population every year.
Mhm.
Another changes happen. We have the highest rate of child poverty in the county. Just because one thing is changing doesn't mean we should avoid trying to work with the forces and make it to our advantage. Sure, certainly change is going to occur.
Craig, I don't want to get into a psychological conversation of,
Building height.
yeah, building height. That's where we need to stay. So
Mike's running for council.
there we go.
No.
But I mean,
building height is part
but
of
I mean to
character.
say, no, but to say that, we just don't want change. We want to keep the neighborhood the same, that the neighborhoods have changed over time. And what we still need to use zoning, but there's also change.
We have an obligation as a planning commission to uphold goal number 2 of our master plan, which says our job is to protect the character and tradition of the existing neighborhoods. Sometimes
Which
that
is
means
subjective.
Which is subjective.
All right, well, we're not going to solve that.
Yeah, we're not gonna solve
argument
that.
tonight, so
But
what do you
certainly
wanna
not
do?
if you listen to our residents or our citizens when they come before you.
So we're looking at a continuation, and you would want a date then to help out?
Yeah, our next council meeting, or
Or
commission meeting is?
November 3rd.
November 3rd, 7 o'clock.
I had to look that up.
Yeah, good job.
I did. So then I would make a motion for
Postponing further
postponing
discussion.
further discussion on this item until our November 3rd Planning Commission meeting
At 7 PM.
at 7 PM.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Next item, other business, number 10. Downtown Social District, map and management plan review. And what page are we on?
We are now on 132.
Yeah, okay. And Kelly, before you start, could you put page 133 up?
Yes. Okay. Are you ready?
Ready when you are.
I think that I won't say a whole lot about this item. I'm going to kick it over to Griffin again. This city has been considering the creation of a social district downtown, and Griffin, as I just said, has been working on this project, so I will let him give the overview.
Okay, Griffin, thank you for hanging out.
Absolutely. Guess what? If we're on this item, it means we're getting close to the end. So you guys are doing a great job. I will try to be relatively brief and more make this available, I guess, for questions, or obviously we're going to hear some comments from the public. But City of South Haven is continuing to explore the creation of a social district in downtown South Haven. My understanding is this topic was originally brought before you all, if you believe it, almost 2 years ago at this point. Social districts are a economic development tool that were created by the state of Michigan, really as coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And they were intended to provide flexibility for food service businesses, to provide permitting for the on-site sale and off-site consumption of alcoholic beverages. At the time that this was originally brought before the Planning Commission and other boards and commissions throughout the city, there were lots of concerns raised at that time that were very similar to those raised in other communities across the state. My understanding is the city of South Haven took a very patient wait-and-see approach when it came to social districts. Since that time, we've seen almost 80 social districts developed across the state of Michigan. And the many we have talked to, as well as the many we've read about, and many folks have participated in, we have come to find, or we have come to learn that many of those concerns regarding the potential for increased crime, garbage, etc., did not play out in practice. And with that, the city of South Haven has now put together a updated proposed social district map, as well as proposed maintenance and management plan, and are gathering feedback from various boards and commissions to bring to the city council, who ultimately gets to make the decision whether or not they want to move forward with an initiative like this. So just to kind of wrap up my initial comments, I just want to go through what you all have in your packet. First, you all have the map, the proposed map, as well as the proposed management and maintenance plan. These documents were mailed to all property owners within the proposed district as well as within 300 feet of the proposed district seeking feedback. A number of people submitted some feedback. Some attended the DDA meeting yesterday afternoon, and I presumably there are some here this evening looking for some feedback as well from you all that we can ultimately bring to the city council to consider. I will say the feedback we received yesterday at the planning or at the DDA was very helpful. I'm also pleased to share that I think a lot of that feedback are items that can be incorporated. But other than that, I guess I'll stop and answer any questions you all may have.
Okay. Does anybody on the commission have a question for staff?
Sure do.
Okay.
We have looked at this before. Am I correct in my conclusion that this map of the social district is different than what we had originally? This looks like an expanded map to me.
I don't know. I wasn't here at the stuff that was brought before you all originally. I can tell you I put together this map and this management plan, so I can't really speak to what was brought before you all before.
The second thing that we asked for 2 years ago when we considered this was the plan, and we had an agreement that it would be done, a plan from public safety on the enforcement issues, what they would do. I don't want to be the bad guy here again tonight, but popular opinion says that we lack a little bit for enforcement currently. As a matter of fact, one of the letters from the proponents even said that we already have people walking with open containers of liquor on our streets and red Solo cups.
Sure.
So I think there's a legitimate reason to have a concern to say, how are we going to staff up to handle this? Will we have, as Saugatuck has, police officers walking on the sidewalks? Will we have, I had a question from a bar owner. What happens if they catch an underage drinker with one of their cups and one of their logos drinking on the streets? Is the bar owner as liable as if they had served that customer at the bar? Where does that liability grow if we find an underage drinker? What are our plans to ensure that people are not bringing their own liquor? Griff, you've worked, you know as well as I do, every golf course says you may only have liquor that's served purchased on the premises. But your experience and my experience says most of the liquor that happens on the golf course, people bring with them. So, we have to be cognizant of that. Have we built into that? How are we going to control that? And lastly, how are we going to fund it? If we require additional enforcement, how are we going to fund it? I think social districts are a great idea. I think some towns do it a whole lot better than others. But I think we have to consider our history and the concerns of our residents about our current level of enforcement and giving them some confidence that that current level of enforcement will mitigate any concerns we have about open containers of alcohol.
Okay. Janice?
Yeah, my comment is very similar to Mike's in terms of needing extra staff. I mean, I wrote down some things like who provides the signs, who provides the stickers, who monitors, who takes care of the trash. Is there any added insurance that's going to be needed? The city liability if and when something happens. So I guess it's the funding of this, who's going to, what does the city get from it, and what does the city provide in terms of funding this? I understand in terms of tourism and attracting people downtown. I understand that piece. But just speaking from a budget perspective, who pays for this? And these are questions. It's not that I'm opposed. I just have these questions. The other thing I noticed that in the proposal, it begins in the fall, let's see, between October and May. And I'm assuming that's just to do a run-through before summer comes. Am I reading that incorrectly?
Yes,
says, yeah.
it's being proposed for the off-season.
Okay, just to see what needs to be handled, or, I mean, is it all?
Potentially, it's being proposed for the off-season right now. At some point in time,
okay.
if it were to be implemented, those hours or time of the year could be changed, just like the district could theoretically be increased or decreased. But at this
Okay.
point in time, we're proposing for the off-season.
Okay,
And-
that helps me understand.
And Mr. Chairman, this may be a good point, or whoever, I mean, I can address some of these questions. How do you want to handle this? Do you want me to try
Not
to
yet.
address
I
some or
wanted
go
to-
around?
but
Okay.
What comments the commission has.
And my final comment is, I know the Lighthouse Point, I think it's called, on 250 Kalamazoo, had a question of how not to be in this social district. And I was just wondering, how do we address those kinds of issues as people want to opt out of being in the district? Those are my 3 questions.
That was quite a few, though, so maybe we better do them one at a time, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you guys
I
tell
don't
me
wanna
how you
over- I
want to
don't
do
wanna
this,
overload
because,
you.
I mean, we've.
So go ahead, dude.
Okay.
You've heard a few, maybe
Sure.
you want to address.
So I guess, so we can start with Mike. There is not a specific, I guess there is a management and maintenance plan that talks about how the district is going to be policed, and it's going to be policed through the normal and standard shifts that we have in place now. We are not anticipating providing additional police service for the social district. There are going to be, and maybe this is a good segue to, if I can make a comment, is, there are definitely going to be value proposition questions that come with something like this. Those are decisions that ultimately are going to need to get made by city council. I think the input from you all, the DDA, and the public are all very helpful in that. I view my role in this topic, as well as my role in general, is to help figure out the how to make some of these things happen. With this one in particular, I've got a lot of questions about why. Why are we doing this? Why would we want to? What's the benefit? I can talk a little bit about the economic development role in some of this, but at the end of the day, there's this value question, and I don't get to answer that in my role as staff. So I think I can try to help with some of the how. The reason, and maybe the best way I can answer Mike, and I can move to Janice's questions, is we have had conversations with the police department. They are much more comfortable with this plan and now than they were 2 years ago. I think much like the rest of city staff, and that's largely based off what we've learned and heard from other communities, that the perception of the increased demand and increased need of law enforcement didn't play out in practice. But a lot of the concerns that are being raised now about the amount of enforcement or how certain situations are going to be handled, I mean, our police department can help work through some of those as they're available now. Again, I don't really want to get into the value question of should we be providing more police officers or not. Again, that's a much bigger conversation, but I think that's probably the best I can respond to some of that right now.
Sure. Well, as you said, Griff, it's a values question. Is any perceived public nuisance outweighed by the benefits? And I'm simply saying, from what I've seen, I haven't seen any actions to mitigate any of the public nuisances. I understand we've looked at other communities. We are not other communities. I mean, we are part of our history. And everyone in here has lived through our winter festivals where all you got to do is wait till it gets dark and the ice sculptures are kicked over, and there's obviously been a fair amount of alcohol.
I understand, and then this obviously respectfully, this may not be something you're supportive of, and that's okay. There's lots of people who are going to feel that way. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. That's okay. I think the feedback is still very helpful, and that's what we can bring to council, and they can decide where they want to go from there with some of these things. Janice, I think you also raised some questions, some of which I can address, and I'm going to admit I'm going to forget some of them that you've asked already, so let me do the best I can. The insurance question is a good one. We have spoken with the city's insurance carrier. We would be covered under our standard umbrella liability insurance policy. We would not need to provide any additional insurance. Question about people being removed from the district. There are a couple different condo associations who have asked to see changes to the boundaries or being removed. So far, I think we're going to be able to accommodate a lot of those. Those are going to be changes we're going to work to incorporate, once we've obviously hear all the feedback, make some of those changes to bring what we ultimately bring to City Council. What other questions did you have?
Budget.
Oh, budget. So what we found is the cost of implementing this, particularly because, right, we're not going to be providing additional law enforcement. There's not going to be any direct staff for a district like this. The costs to implement are relatively low. You're talking the costs of signage, the minor marketing, and then the costs of providing the stickers for the local businesses. We're estimating $200 to $2,000 to put this program into place, and have been in conversations with the DDA about paying the costs of that. Again, with the goal of this being an economic development tool, our goal is to keep the costs as low as possible, if none, to potential participating businesses. I guess our perception of that is it's kind of counterintuitive to put an economic development tool in place and then have those businesses be the ones funding it. So again, the DDA would make the decision whether or not they're gonna fund some of these things, but that's the goal at this point.
When you spoke with DDA, were there businesses such as, clothing businesses, did they speak for or against it? I didn't know what their concerns might be.
Not that come to mind. And I think there are some parts in the plan I can point you to specifically when it talks about
They won't be welcome. I mean, there will be a sign that says.
yes, they can choose to not allow
To not
that
allow.
participation, correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Did I miss anything else?
Nope,
Okay,
that was it.
thank you. Yep, and those are all really good questions.
George?
So I think you pretty much addressed what I had. I had the Lighthouse Point condos, which is what was already mentioned, and the Verano Place condos. Those were the ones that we got emails on, and I would think it should be possible to change the boundary to notch those out somehow.
I think we had representatives from both those groups at the DDA meeting yesterday, and again, at least preliminarily, I don't see those as changes we can't address.
I understand we don't really have any formal action on this.
Correct.
We're just providing feedback, which is.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, as a member of council, you can speak to some of this better than I can. I mean, if there is consensus from the board and there's a desire to make a recommendation to move forward with a plan like this to the city council, or vice versa, if there's consensus that you all don't want to see this move forward, I think formal motions with recommendations are helpful to city council in terms of kind of a more formal input. But regardless, I mean, we'll be bringing the minutes, the recordings of the meetings will be available, and the feedback in general we're going to work to incorporate.
Yeah, I mean, this is really something that should be, in my opinion, driven by the Downtown Development Association, since they're the ones that are really going to either benefit or be impacted the most by it. I wouldn't want, either from a planning commissioner standpoint or a city council standpoint, to go forward with something like this unless the DDA was fully on board with it, because I don't want to be seen as pushing something on the DDA without them having the input, when especially they're the ones that are impacted by it.
So at yesterday's meeting, they did make a motion and vote to recommend that city council move forward with the social district. But we brought it to the DDA, bring it to the planning commission, and then ultimately to city council, who they would be the party who has to make the final decision whether or not to, approve a resolution that would get submitted to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. So we're doing the best we can to get that feedback from the variety of different groups.
Right. That's all I have.
And I haven't figured it out yet, but somehow I think you're looking at a new taxable overlay district in some way, shape, or form. So, all right, Clark.
Yeah, I guess we're just providing input. I'm glad we're finally looking at this. We were on the cutting edge. Now there's already 80 of them out there, and I've been to many. you can purchase to-go drinks now. I didn't know if a lot of people knew that you can go into many places, so you
Really?
can walk out. Yeah. A lot of places downtown will sell you a to-go liquor, and it's got to be contained. Now, you can't drink it outside, but you can certainly buy to-go drinks. I guess one of the things I saw some of the letters, like there was a potential concern, because we have a social district, it does not take private property and make it public. So if there's a private parking lot, there's still a private parking lot.
Correct.
And my big concern would be, and I know they now have a liquor license at the gastropub. I would hate for someone, if they decided to participate, purchase a drink, have to walk down Eagle Street, walk down the sidewalk, walk out on the street, walk back on the sidewalk because someone didn't want to be included sidewalk-wise. I think that can, I think that sidewalk should be included, but if someone would feel more comfortable taking their private parking lot out of the red line there, that still it's still going to be private. And last but not least, I guess I'm really doing something wrong playing golf, not bringing, I guess, my own stuff to drink. So I'm learning something every day.
Haven't seen you out there much, Clark.
I must do something wrong. That's it. And I would definitely like to see this move along. I don't think we have to take any action, but, they're getting great input.
Yeah, we're not rezoning anything.
No.
So, all right, so my turn, right? You drew this map up, correct? This was your,
I worked with our team to include all of the downtown liquor.
you do
Worked with
realize
the-
you left City Hall off the red area?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure you knew that.
Yes.
Just a
Yes, I won't be able to walk to my office.
Yes, just a joke. All right, but the more serious questions, like Dykeman Park and the parking lot where the pavilion is, what was the determination of why that was excluded?
Yep. At this point in time, Dykeman Park was left out because being a public park, it has a park rule that no alcohol is allowed. So if we were to include it, we would need to go through that process of amending all those park rules. I think the conversations I've had with members of the public, other boards and commissions, and city staff is I think those would be reasonable areas to consider in the future. I think right now we were looking at proposing a plan that could be that first step, kind of what Janice mentioned. It's our first step to propose a relatively small, relatively conservative plan, limits time of the year, limit time of the day, a relatively small area, with the idea of if council decides to put this in place, we can see how it goes. And at that point, if there is interest in doing away with it, that could be a possibility. Or if there is interest in expanding any of those areas, those could be possibilities as well. So personally, I can see expanding at some point into some of those other areas, but that's the reasoning for
Okay.
not including
That's
them
fine.
right now.
And then my second question was in regards to the green hash mark common area where it's the streets. Is that really intended to be the sidewalks and the crosswalks, or is it the street?
It's intended to be the sidewalks and the crosswalks. I'm trying to think where.
And I only
in the
mention
plan
that
where it talks about the.
because if somebody handed me this map and I just walk down the street with a drink,
Mhm.
right? Maybe we need to be a little more explicit with how that hatching works.
We could look at that.
Okay. I think that's it for right now. Public comment. Does anybody wish to speak about the social district? Lead off batter.
I'll
Yes,
start out
sir,
again,
Dan.
buddy. I'm batting 1,000 here, I think. I've been to some districts too, in Northville and whatever, and they're pretty good. I never saw any police officers walking around or anything. Everything seemed to go pretty good. I have one question though, is why by the condos over on Quaker Street, I can see those being out, but why wasn't Admiral Jack's, the Idler, and the South Haven Yacht Club included? That's over about see, they're not inside they stop behind the condos right there. the condos between the downtown Phoenix and on Quaker Street, those are exempted, but Williams Station's extended down Williams Street to pick up the Yacht Club, Southie Yacht Club, and the Idler and Admiral Jacks. They all have liquor licenses, so I'm curious as to why those included.
Without staff answering, just to guess at what your question is, Admiral Jack's is on the water, so it's not part of the property. It's not land.
Okay.
And the Yacht Club is a private social club. So I would guess that would be why.
Okay, all right, just curious, thanks.
And I guess, no, after public comment, sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Hi.
Hi, state your name, address, and you have
I'm
5
Barb
minutes.
Fish, 250 Kalamazoo Street, the Lighthouse Point. And I was here the other day, and I said actually our president of our condo, Brian Spalding, wrote the letter, and I do live here full-time. I'm a full-time resident there. It is my home. And I just have to share with you, I feel like I'm already in a social district, where I live. And I do hear a lot of noise from people, and I love where I live. I love being in town. I have to keep saying that again because it's the first time I lived in a city. But I do really hear the crowd. I mean, they're very loud at night. I don't see a lot of control right now with the drinking. There's cups left on the walls. We're constantly cleaning up the road where there's garbage thrown in the gardens and in through the entryways. And as far as control goes, and it's not always like that, but there's some nights they're so loud. I don't think noise is taken care of at all. And when we talk about police control, I think for that kind of thing that they're planning, the social district, I really believe they do need more police protection. I don't think there's enough right now. I see skateboards going down by the lighthouse, right behind cars at night. I mean, it's unbelievable, the fights, the cars racing against each other. There's just a lot that happens, and I don't see it controlled right now. And I think we are not like other communities. I think we're transient in the fact that people come over at night, maybe for sunsets from Kalamazoo, from Benton Harbor, this time, which is good. I mean, we get all kinds of people. But I live there, and I love South Haven, and I want to see it to be its best. I know the social district is a thing other communities are doing, but I really see them different, and I think some of them are talking about space, having space here, 2 streets here. It's not as big as this, and I can't imagine going out my front door and seeing people drinking and just, I don't know the purpose of it. I guess I don't truly understand the whole thing yet, but I definitely, if this would pass, I really would like our boundaries not to be going down by my sidewalk where I have to see it, I don't know, I guess I need a better picture of it. But I thank you. I just needed to say this again. And I hope it works out in our favor.
All right, thank you. And just remember, we're not the approving body for this one, we're just reviewing it. Okay, city council makes this guy right here, just keep him in your eyesight.
There's a few others.
Okay, Mary.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. With regard to the DDA, they actually recommended it with the changes that were discussed, so the boundaries would be different than what's up there. I think that needed clarification. Concerns were raised, but I find the answers somewhat non-responsive and deficient, unfortunately. A main reason for this was because of COVID and to allow gathering spaces, but other reasons I've heard is to have a place for people to gather while they're waiting for dinner. With this occurring between October 1st and May 15th, there are no lines. There is no place for people to have to, there is no lines. And being noon to 8 p.m. between October 1st and May 15th, it's getting cold out. And so I'm very baffled about it. And also the map shows all these businesses, but how many of those businesses are actually open during that time frame? I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And with regard to other cities and towns that have been implemented it and see no problems, well, how similar are their plans to our proposal? So yesterday we heard one person on the DDA say that he's visited places, they had streets blocked off, they had 4 parks designated, they had all this gathering area. Our sidewalks are narrow. We already have parking issues. Oh, wait, it's October to May. We don't have parking issues. Our sidewalks aren't that full. So I appreciate, and I don't mean to be flippant, but I appreciate trying to increase business for downtown. I don't see this as the way to do it. I am concerned about it being darker at night, and the concern that was raised with what happens when an underage drinker gets found with one of these cups. Who's liable for that? And that hasn't been addressed. The permit. So yesterday it was explained that there will be a permit process. The businesses won't be charged. It will be a nominal fee to get everything up and running. It's now clarified that the city's premiums won't be increased. What about businesses? What is the unintended consequences to businesses? Are they going to have to get a different insurance policy? And unlike some of them, we're right on the river. We have a lot of body, and there are these plastic non-biodegradable cups. Plastic in our waterways is lethal. It's not good. Enforcement. I think there is a valid concern about lack of enforcement. We just don't have, from what was just discussed, we don't have police in our areas when we need them. One issue that I was very concerned about from a comment yesterday from staff is that it's private property, it remains private property, they can say it's private property. Well, fine, that's just pushing the burden to the private property owner to get rid of the people who are trespassing. That burden shouldn't be increased, which I anticipate it will, if private property is incorporated in this social district that is being set by the city. People don't read signs, so I'm very concerned about the signage using it because it's really an invisible line. I'm very concerned with some of the issues that have been raised by private individuals, and they're summarily dismissed. And it just seems to be increasing the wedge between people, not making things more convenient and more consistent with what we've had. And they always say we're not worried about drunkenness, but my understanding is there was a slew of such notices issued during the Winterfest, the chili cook-off, whatever. Again, I applaud trying to increase business. Having this during this time, I don't see it resolving the issues, but I do see it causing strife between people. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Barb Chartier-Rodanis, and I live at 30 Apache Court. I don't have anything planned on what to say. And one of the main things, and I don't know if I can ask a question that can help me then frame my questions also, but what is the main purpose, the main end goal of having this in the first place? I heard you say economic development tool. So in plain English, does that mean it just brings more bucks to the city?
I would guess that would be their intent.
Okay.
Yes.
I have nothing against drinking. I'm not a big drinker. I've only lived here for about 7 years, and I wonder if there's like an age group that's, this appeals more to. I have nothing against,
Clark's age group.
I guess I don't see the point of, I've been happy with just going to a bar or a restaurant and having a drink. I'm wondering too, like when people are able to, if this passes, can people go in stores with their drink?
It says in here that they can unless the store owner puts a sign up says they cannot.
Okay,
But
which also-
it's up to the store owner then to enforce it, I guess.
Right, and that causes another wedge because now an invisible wedge or hypothetical wedge because customers can now be thinking that negatively towards the store. We don't need more division, I don't believe. And over alcohol, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm not a big drinker. I find it very sad that alcohol is used and abused to such an extent that it is, and it seems like so many people have to have alcohol be a focal point of whatever activity they're doing. I'm all for social ability. I don't need alcohol to be social. I can have a social drink and that's all I need. But I don't think that this is going to have that kind of environment. I think it's going to, most people don't control their social drinking. So the limits there, I think, are just, they're not going to be existent. And then you're subjecting people to have to, store owners, businesses, whatever, are going to have to deal with these people. And it isn't fun. It is not fun, especially if you're a retail person anyhow, you own a store. It is not fun being a store, anybody in retail having to deal with anybody that's sober, let alone somebody that's tipsy or anywhere on the range of being under the influence. Trust me, if you haven't done retail, not, working with the public, retail is different. I think there's still that mentality of the customer is always right, and I've never believed that since I was 16, and it's just gotten progressively more untrue. The customer, a lot of times, is just downright wrong, and more businesses have to stand up to them in a nice way somehow. But that's off the subject. I'm really not for this. I'm not convinced. I don't think we need to be like everybody else. Just because everybody else is doing this doesn't mean we have to jump on the bandwagon. I think, I always remember my parents saying, well, just because so-and-so's parents let them do that doesn't mean that we have to. It's not a reason. I think we can stand out as a community a lot better by possibly not bending down to this and looking for some other possibilities. Alcohol is just too prevalent. That's all. I think that's all. I think that's all.
Okay, you still have a minute.
I don't. No, that's my main point. I don't see any purpose. I think there is much better use of our community resources and ideas, and alcohol is just such a, go to these other places if you. And I've heard that, because I'm a big participant with Icebreakers Festival. I love that. I don't even think I have a drink at all. Maybe I do. It's not the focal of my point. But I've heard from one of the bartenders that he has to set up camp on, I think it's Friday morning or something, Thursday night or something, and he's there the whole weekend because it's just, and it brings in more money than the 4th of July, which shocks me because it's in the middle of winter. But again, it's all alcohol. I think we should start a new trend and just,
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I think I'm the last one.
Okay.
I'm Tom Garrett. I live at 414 Quaker Street in the condos that overlook the parking lot. And when I'm in bed at 1:30 in the morning, I don't even have to look at my watch because I know they're coming out of the bar. Some of the things they say are kind of funny. I saw you looking at that woman in the bar. And then comes out, and I want to say, take it home. Let's not litigate it in the parking lot, who did what and who looked at who. So it's already happening, I just don't want that parking lot to become a tailgate party, I mean, who's to say, like someone said, you bring your own booze, right? You sit in your car, you have your F-150 sitting on the back, and you're filling up your glass because that's legal. And, you don't have to have a beer bottle in your hand to do that. So anyway, I'm not for it, so, all right.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Well, there's a few out there that haven't spoken tonight. You sure you don't want to come up? Okay. All right, so that leaves us to, obviously, we don't really take formal action on this. If we want to make a motion one way or the other, we can. My comment would be if you were to make a motion to recommend, I would also recommend adding some sort of sunset on it for a review. And then alternately, I would also point out to you that this planning commission and city council made sure that no dispensaries would go in the downtown.
Got that right.
So knowing that, I don't know how this one fits into it as well, right? So either way, whatever you want to do, if the intent's not to make a recommendation and it's just to collect the public comment, just say so now so we can move on, or if you want to make a motion,
Well, I
do
think,
that.
just to build on that, Tim, I think the great benefit of having George here is he heard the conversation. I'm not ready to make a recommendation back. I think the plan is not well developed yet. I think there's a lot of holes in it that I think we need to take a look at. As far as being an economic development tool, I think we have to explain to people how the economic development dollars raised cycle back to the city and the city residents. Back to the benefit. Where is that benefit going? If those dollars are leaving the city to owners that don't live in the city, employees that don't live in the city, then I don't think it's worth, I think you've got to question whether it's worth the effort to put this into place. Tim, I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, I find it terribly ironic. If this is an economic development issue, the greatest economic addition to a lot of those cities that you talked to was marijuana dispensaries in town. We actually get increased tax revenue from that. I'm not a social scientist, but I can tell you that certainly you do your research, there's a whole lot more trouble with alcohol than there is with the use of marijuana. So I'm struck by how we're taking two different stances on what are both legal businesses. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, I guess I'm under the impression, we don't have to do anything because this really isn't before us to make any kinds of decisions. City council is going to run with this.
Sure.
Correct?
I would think just like marijuana, it was reviewed by the city and then city council made a decision. I think that's the
They're
same
just
process we're doing with this.
giving us the offer to look at this and be a part of it, but they're not looking for any recommendation from us to begin with, right? They were just looking for some input, potentially.
My understanding of my role as staff was I was instructed to put together a plan for an option of a way that this could be implemented. But the decision of whether or not to do that lays with city council.
Yeah, there we go. Then we don't need to do anything anyways, so.
No matter what happens here tonight, whether it's a motion
To support.
recommend or not recommend, it's going to go to the council meeting third Monday of this month.
Yeah, okay.
No.
So we don't have
Where else
to
does it
flush
go?
it out. Okay. Thank you.
It will not be before council that quickly.
Okay.
It will go to before council, but
But it won't come back here again.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
no, the next step will be to city council, and they can provide direction from there.
Okay.
So I'm good. I think we gave them a lot of input.
Thank
I'm
you
good
all,
with
I
no
appreciate it.
All right. Janice, do you agree? No? No motion being made? Okay, very good. All right, thank you, everybody, for your comments. Next up is public comment. Citizens in the audience may address the planning commission regarding items that were not on this agenda. Hey, quick question. In the 80s, when the Tigers went to the World Series, who was the lead batter? Was that Chet Lemon?
It might have been.
Because he was the fastest. So I'm going to start calling you Chet Lemon because
Well,
you're the
I do have
fastest out of the seat, and that's why you're the lead speaker.
I do have
on
ice
every
skates. I
item.
skate and play hockey, so maybe that's
Make a
okay.
hockey
I wish Nick was here because I didn't get a chance to give a rebuttal on what he said.
Dan
Monday.
Agnello, by the way.
Yeah, Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway, in case you don't know. The old guy on Everett, okay, whatever you want to put down. We always go to these meetings and there are remarks from staff, and the premise from a lot of these is not correct, or there's no backup information. Well, staff may or may not agree with whatever it is. Okay, we question, there's a lot of things missing from Trailside Everett Park LLC Phase 2. A lot of things are missing. It started with a dozen items, and it still has a dozen items. Yeah, there are a couple boilerplate ones that says State of Michigan, per State of Michigan codes, per local codes, and make sure all your applications are in and everything. But, the ordinance items were like Section 1405. We questioned that these duplexes have to show how much of the area they're covering on each lot. It says in 1405, Paragraph 5, lot area and coverage, floor area, floor elevation. We got the building heights, like I said, finally, and the building heights are measured from the side of the building. This ordinance says you're supposed to indicate what the coverage of that duplex is on the lot. They're not on the drawings, they're not in the write-up. So, I wish from now on, Nick or whoever in the staff makes these comments, use a reference on it, because I don't know where he got this from, but it says coverage right there. Every lot, and we've been arguing about coverage on a lot of these houses because it's been calculated incorrectly. You cannot take the area from the street to the lot. It's been the sidewalk to the lot. So some of these houses being built, they're obviously more than 41% of whatever it is. If you look on 300 Erie or some of the other houses on Erie, the coverage is too big. It's just unbelievable. So thank you.
Anyone else?
Start calling them telepathic also. Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. There just seems to be a disagreement, and I have to agree with Dan, about requirements. And I'm going to focus on 1400, specifically 14053, which requires in pertinent part a map, but then it says the following items shall be shown on the map. Of course, what we've witnessed is that shall doesn't always mean shall, and we saw earlier today that may actually mean shall. But under 3, it's required topography of the site, dimensions, yada, yada, lot area, coverage, floor area, floor elevation. G is proposed grading, drainage systems, etc. What I've been seeing on maps for PUDs is what appears to provide sub C, not substantiating whether it is, which I think is unfortunate. And why is that? Why does the staff report only say appears? Does the developer refuse to give it? Is it, if it were given, would it have show that the drainage won't work? I mean, we know that there's abysmal problems at Maplegate. Does the staff not even realize it's required, like 140416? That seems to get missed time and time again. Has staff been told not to go for it? There's just so many things that in the staff reports, it lists what's required, but then it doesn't address each of them. And even building elevations are required under 1405. The requirements, they're just ignored on site plans, and it's really just not good. But it's not just site plans that are ignored. There's different things with how things are just applied, like STRs. And not just business STRs, but personal STRs. So again, I'm perplexed as to how anyone can apply for an STR before there's an occupancy permit. I saw one, like I said, for 104, and it said there's no buildings on it, on the application. There's no, in the staff system. So, you know, how many people can you apply for an STR without a building occupancy permit? And if so, then why did 104 Erie seem to be able to get one? There just seems to be different outcomes potentially. I don't know. And it's not just business STRs that have issues, it's personal STRs with our zoning ordinance. You know, how often do you have to apply for a permit for personal STRs? Is it yearly, every other year? The application makes it appear yearly, and that would be consistent with the reading of section 1744C that says registration and inspection, that's personal. Short-term rental personal units must be registered annually. Annually, I think, is yearly. But if you look at the application itself, under personal, limited to 6 terms, 28 days or fewer in a calendar year, $125 per year. But if you look on the city's website, under fees, personal short-term rentals under STR program will cost $125 biannually and be inspected biannually. So these are significant discrepancies. I just recognized it today and looking at things today. It's not related to agenda items. I found it looking for items for agenda items. And, you know, we're undergoing recodification because the zoning ordinances are not clear. At least that's what we're told. But proposed changes I'm seeing are actually making it less clear. So please, will this PC and our city council, Councilman Sleeper, start holding staff accountable for these creative interpretations of our not so horribly written zoning ordinances to allow, it seems, certain people are able to do stuff, whereas brick walls are being put up for others, making the ZBA the Fort Knox, where people have issues, especially with STRs, and the staff keeps preventing them from getting there, alleging timing issues when actually the ZBA should be doing it. The lack of accountability and the lack of transparency is destroying the health, safety, and welfare of our community. And the roadblocks that are being put up just reinforces that degradation. And I hope that we have a turn for the better.
Hey, any further comments?
Am I able to make a comment about something that you talked about before? No? Okay.
I'd prefer not, no. Okay, anyone else? No? All right, any staff comments? Anything interesting coming up that I should get prepared for? Daycare one kind of came out of left field. That one I did not expect.
I do think we will continue to have fun things on our agendas in the months to come. I wanted to let you all know that we received notice from South Haven Charter Township that they're beginning a master plan update process. I do know that Williams & Works is contracted for that project, and they would very much appreciate some support from the city or meeting attendance at some of their upcoming public input sessions. So as those dates become available, I'll be sure to send them your way.
Okay. Did our ad hoc committees ever meet?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Okay.
We have lots of them right now, so it depends which one. The Fireplace Ad Hoc Committee has not met. My understanding is staff's reached out to that group and just hasn't been able to put together a date that works for everybody. The Shoreline Armoring
Yes.
subcommittee did meet. We had a very successful meeting. We're working with Edgewater Resources to put together a proposal that's going to be, my understanding is, brought back to the subcommittee to be considered to recommendation to you all, to be considered for recommendation to city council. But with that is maybe back to your question. there is some really good coastal management grants that are available right now with deadlines in the next couple months, and city staff is looking at some opportunities to see how we may be able to take advantage of some of those and advance some of the work we've all been working on. So
Those are the only two ad hoc committees we had set up, correct?
from the Planning Commission, yes.
Okay. Well, because I was gonna entertain if we had more than that, we'd look at that again and see if we needed to, poll one or two, but, yeah.
I think the Shoreline Armoring Committee, I don't want to speak for them, but my understanding from the last one is if we bring back the proposal we discussed and it is what they want, and they recommend it to you all, that committee likely won't need too much more. I can't speak for the Fireplace Ordinance Committee right now because we haven't been able to coordinate a date to work yet. But I think if we got any more, staff would kind of be struggling. I think right now we're probably okay.
All right, good. All right. who
I will
wants-
also say, if I can,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just in terms of updates, I do know city staff's also planning at the November meeting to bring an update to you all on the status of the zoning ordinance update project. I know there's lots of comments made regularly, about that, and obviously it's a major undertaking and priority we're working on. George and Larry have both been very helpful, as well as several others. But I think staff's going to do our best to probably bring you all updates approximately quarterly, just obviously to make sure you all are staying attuned to what's going on. Once it gets out of that group, it'll obviously get brought to you all for discussion, feedback, and we'll go from there. But our plan is in November to bring you all an update on that as well.
Okay, very good, thank you. Well, who wants to go first tonight?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think the big issue that we've had with the Fireplace Committee is getting it started.
You need to strike it?
Yeah, we need to strike it. Just getting it started. It'll go. We got a new clock. Did you guys notice that
No,
up
it's the
there?
same clock we had.
But it's new position, which is great. I wish it had a buzzer, but it's up there, which is kind of, it's easy for everybody. Hopefully it's easier for those there to see it as well. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
Mike?
Saw George leaning in.
Well, I called you, though. George's gonna have to wait.
I cede my time, no. Again, thanks to staff. The table that you put together was very, very helpful. I appreciate the work you did to collect that height data. That was helpful. Again, and I appreciate my fellow commission members and their patience with me. I obviously have my biases, as we all do, but that's why we all meet as a body. So thanks for your patience and listening to me, and see you next month.
I just wanted to say that it was really nice to see our community come together to talk about our neighborhoods as we were discussing the daycare center. I think there were both views, and I think people were looking at each other's views thoughtfully and having good conversations so that they could come to an amicable agreement. And so I'm really proud of our community when it comes together like that and has these civil conversations.
Yeah, I think we've got a good committee, and I do appreciate everyone's perspectives, and I think we can bring those different perspectives, and I think that's what makes us stronger. And just wanted to let people know, next week I'm going to be attending a citizen planner event as part of the Michigan Association of Planning event, and looking forward to that and trying to improve my knowledge in the planning area.
Is that the one in Lansing, George?
Mackinac Island.
I put in for that, too.
They're not letting you go, just George?
It's got rank.
Yeah. Okay. There's been a few comments tonight staff hasn't been transparent, similar things, and I don't know, I guess it's all relative to certain situations, but every time I've asked for further information, and I've always found it forthcoming, from being the chair and being able to share it with you guys, get prepared for meetings. So I just want to say that I appreciate staff's help in these matters. And then, other than that, I may have more comments, but I shall not because it's late. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to adjourn. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.